Okay, good morning. I'm going to call our meeting to order for October 8th for the Washoe County Board of Commissioners. I would ask also, I'm probably going to get into this, if you have a cell phone, would you please silence it? And we will start with a salute to the flag. Chief Deputy Jeff Clark, would you lead us this morning in a salute to the flag, sir? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Good morning, Madam Clerk. Would you call roll, please?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Von Hartung, Chair.
Present.
Bob Lucy, Vice Chair. Here. Marcia Bergbiegler.
Here.
Kitty Jung.
Present.
Jeannie Herman.
Here.
Acting Interim County Manager Christine Valetich.
Here.
Assistant District Attorney Paul Liparelli.
Here.
I'm Nancy Parent, County Clerk. You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Manager, would you call item number 3, please?
Yes, item number 3 is an appearance by Chief Deputy Jeff Clark, Washoe County Sheriff's Office, and a presentation and update on Detention Services Unit.
Chief Deputy Clark, welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners, Madam Manager. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to come and talk about some of the positive things that are happening at the Sheriff's Office. And certainly, you know, my passion right now is the jail and providing increased services to our inmate population. So this presentation is about our newly formed Detention Services Unit, and kind of goes over what we've done this year. And so without further ado, the mission of the Detention Services Unit is the Washoe County Sheriff's Office is dedicated to creating relationships with community providers and building a safe, healthy, positive, supportive relationship with those individuals who live in our community. In an effort to reduce recidivism through continuity in counseling, recovery, programming, mental health, well-being, medical and mental health, educational care for those in custody, and upon transition when released back into our community. The Detention Services Unit was established in April of this year, and what we did is we had a unit admin services division in the jail that took care of a number of things from fire safety to projects and the kite program where inmates can kite if they have a certain need. And we had several different programs that all were trying to do something with inmate services. We're really trying to bridge the gap between somebody that's in custody and then what we can provide them while they're in custody to help with their transition back to the community. One of those was the Inmate Assistance Program. So we felt it was important to bring all these units under one umbrella, so we were all communicating the same, and we were really creating a unit where there was conversation and we were all working towards one common goal. So that was April 22nd, the unit was created. Currently, we have 1 sergeant, 4 deputies, and 3 civilians in that unit. And some of the units that were incorporated were the Inmate Assistance Program, which primarily works with the courts on court-related or court-mandated treatment programs. Our in-house programs, including our services and educational piece, and clinical professional counselors, interns with masters in clinical mental health counseling, and that obviously is in a partnership with our contracted medical company, which is NAFCare. We also have 1 medical discharge planner that is a NAFCare paid position that will be under this unit, and then 1 health and human services social worker from the state. That is extremely important, and that is thanks to the director, Mr. Richard Whitley, who gave us that position full-time. And it was really to increase the number of inmates that were released with Medicaid and SNAP and different state resources. Some of the program partnerships that we've developed obviously are with the state, and I won't go through all of these, but many of these have provided just so many services at the jail that we haven't ever seen before, and most of these have been at zero cost to us, which is important. And it really shows the collaboration in our community. I've been saying it at several meetings, we live in the best community, and the stuff that we're seeing at the jail with providers from the community coming in and wanting to assist and wanting to increase the warm handoffs and the assistance provided to the inmates is pretty incredible. We've recently created an inmate resource education guide. It's a community resource guide, 72 pages. We've put it on our website. We're currently creating an app for cell phones and things where it will be interacted, where families and inmates can get on this resource guide to look for a local provider. This resource guide is all the partners that have either reached out to us or we've gone to help with community resources. We also, there's another slide. Another program that we're working on, we're almost there, is the medication-assisted treatment program in the jail. This is, again, in partnership with NAFCARE, but it's a combination of behavioral therapy medications, treatment, and substance abuse disorders. It's for opioids and narcotics treatment program. We recently received a $207,000 grant. Thank you for supporting that, and that's to help fund this program. Medication-assisted treatment is really, there's several important aspects to it. Not only medically treating them, but the counseling piece is the piece that we're working on right now. We're working on hiring a licensed clinical social worker that can do assessments on inmate, and those really help with bridging that gap between the jail and to a treatment resource. So we're trying to ensure that inmates who want the services aren't released out in the community before we can hold their hand and to actually do that warm handoff into treatment. Our first successful MAT was June 25th, and that was in partnership with the community, but it was also our first Vivitrol shot. And Vivitrol is a drug that actually blocks, it's a blocker and then blocks the effects of opiates, and it lasts for 30 days. So it's a long-term, long-acting injectable. And then the idea was the company actually gives us samples, so our medical staff is able to give the first dose and then do the warm handoff to the provider, and then the provider takes over with either insurance or Medicaid or whatever the case may be to continue. And ultimately, when we're talking about long-acting injectables, we're really just trying to get to that next month. We want to get through the 30 days and then get that patient to the next 30 days, and it's just 1 month at a time. Another program in partnership with our Washoe County Health Department, that this is one of my favorite programs because it started just by somebody saying, hey, I heard that there's these women health programs going on in jails, and we just started talking to it and we made it work, and it's been a phenomenal partnership. But it's basically where the health department has come in and given women's health classes in our 2 female units at the jail. And they offer long-acting reversible contraceptives up to 10 years. We truly believe with this program that we can affect unwanted pregnancies in our community. And again, as years go by, we'll be able to, there's no doubt, be able to see the impact that this one little program has made. And the health department has done this through grant funding. So that started in October of 2018. To date, that number is well over 100 females that have taken advantage of that program. And it's really to link our population to the health department so that when they get out, they know that there's services for them that they can go and obtain. The Narcan partnership, this is with our partnerships with the University CASAT program, and it's a state-funded program. one of the state's initiatives was really to get Narcan out into the community. We started with first responders using it, and Narcan is basically the drug that reverses opiates, right? So the idea was to get it out into the community. So we started talking to CASAT, and they said one way to do that would be to offer it to inmates as they're released. So we came up with a program where when an inmate comes in the doors and they're identified as an opiate user, right, with whether they're detoxing or whatever the case may be, their jacket is screened, and then upon release they're offered a Narcan kit, which is a nasal Narcan that will help reverse the effects of opiates. And this started in February. These numbers are a little bit slim from what they are currently, but so far we've had over a 60% rate of the inmates accepting the Narcan kits. Obviously, it's really hard to track how successful they'll be in the community, but I think, again, if we see opiate overdoses going down, we can say with some certainty that this has at least some effect on getting Narcan kits out into our community. We've since created a leave behind program for our patrol deputies, and now Reno Police and Sparks Police are also bringing that program on, where if they go to a call for service and they see signs of drug use or opiate use, they can leave behind a Narcan kit with the citizen. The Hopes Release Program, obviously this is a program that we've started a ways back in 2018, and it's been a phenomenal partnership with Hopes. And Hopes basically gives inmates that are being released from custody, we give them a referral, and they get a priority at Hopes when they go down there for services, so they don't have to wait in line. Hopes is extremely busy, but they're doing so much for our community. Foundation for Recovery, this is Lisa Lee's foundation, or where Lisa Lee works. Since then, she's come into the jail and really started doing programs that show services to our female population, that there is help in our community. We also have the same program for Grant Denton and the Reno Downtown Partnership. And again, they are keeping stats, and I will be able to deliver those stats to you as these programs progress. I know we're at the end of time. This program is a music therapy for our mental health unit, and you will be seeing a press release going out on this. It's just an invaluable program in the jail that was just started a couple weeks ago. I would like to highlight, we did our first community resource fair was July 22nd, 2019. We have another community resource fair that we're doing at Reno Mall, the Old Town Mall that used to be, and that's on October 24th. And again, these resource fairs are invaluable, and we want our community to know these resources are out there. And our community providers think these are invaluable as well, because they get to communicate with each other. And that's all I have for this presentation.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Chief Deputy Clark? Commissioner Jung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief Deputy Clark,
Ma'am.
thank you for being here. I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
What's a kite?
A kite is a program where the inmates can ask for services. It's when they're on tier time, if they need to speak with our classification unit, or if they need an appointment or by medical, or they're having an ailment, they can fill out a kite. And
So
then
like
it's
what you see
delivered.
on television shows? I'm going to send a kite up to...
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Just wanted to make sure. And then for the contract with NAFCare, how would you say they are performing? I know we had some issues a few years ago. The vice chairman and I traveled the country and went to many meetings with potential contractors. We had got into this contract because Clark County was in this contract. Then we found out that they weren't being able to provide. Their fault, our fault, I don't know. It was hard to hire people, I remember, was the biggest issue. Yeah. How are they doing?
They're doing really
Are you the
well.
contract manager for that?
I am,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Good. So how is that going?
I will tell you, they're doing great. They are a good partner. They reach out to us often from the corporate level in Alabama to ensure that we're getting the service that we expect. The sheriff is very involved in that as well, and met with their corporate executives here within the last month.
Great.
And so they know that there's a standard here.
Good.
And an expectation.
Good.
The nice thing about it is they come to the table, and if they make a mistake, they're willing to admit that mistake and more importantly, fix it so it doesn't happen again.
With a community that's basically at about 100% employment, what are the challenges for them for recruiting that they were seeing before we were in this upswing?
I think the same challenges exist. Obviously, it's a correctional health care, and they've done a good job at raising their rates to match community. They also, based on that last contract, they've done a good job at hiring a lot of per diem and part-time intermittents, so that
Right.
even if they get a sick call or something and they can't fill a full-time position, they can call in a part-time intermittent to fill that gap.
Great, I'm glad to hear that. And then, when will your app launch for the resource guide for the inmates?
I will give you a specific date, ma'am. We have it, so we're doing a testing of it right now. It's just going to be just fantastic. Obviously, we have some stuff online and that you can download right now, like our graffiti app, where you can take a picture of graffiti and it automatically uploads the location and things like that. So it'll be really neat and a lot of interactive features, and we're really trying to make that resource guide interactive. Along with that app, we're starting basically a resource center at the jail where inmates get released. And one of the resources that we just got is pretty cool. It looks like a big cell phone. It's all touch screen, and it'll all be interactive to again give people more
When that
information
app
on
is
services.
released, will you make sure that the commissioners all get a heads up? My concern about that is who will be updating said app. Resource guides are about as good for about 24 hours
You're
to a
right.
week. So who's in charge of updating the information on this app?
So our detention services unit keeps that resource guide updated because they're working with these community providers
Right.
almost daily. So they'll ensure that that's updated. Actually, it's a partnership with county IT. They're the ones
Great.
developing the app.
Okay.
And so I think, again, it's great to see us working with our own county providers in developing and building these type of systems.
Great. And then you said Vivitrol is to block opiate, for them to experience the positive effects of opiates should they consume it, correct? So it would do nothing for them.
Well, yeah, Vivitrol is a blocker of the
Right.
opiate effect, yeah.
Okay, so do you know if we have anything available to us? I know it exists, but could you do some more research or talk to the sheriff about, is there anything, are you thinking about implementing those same type of pills for alcohol?
So, interesting enough, I'm glad you brought that up, that Vivitrol also works for alcohol. It's not sold under that, but it certainly is one of the uses is for alcohol, and there are certainly long-acting alcohol blockers as well. And that's the idea behind the MAP program. Obviously, we want to be able to offer it to any inmate that
Who follows
is
up
ready.
with them? Is it that your warm handoff? They follow up, and because they'll need it, in 30 more days?
Yes.
Okay, so
The
you think-
idea is to start them right before they're released, but we
Sure.
have to have a community provider on the outside so that it's that warm handoff and they can continue the counseling. Addiction is a disease, and without, it truly is a team effort in finding someone that's ready to get the help that they need. Most recent research is somebody it can take up to 14 times for an addict to finally take the treatment. Even if they know that it's there and provided for them,
Absolutely.
they can go back 14 times. So I tell my
Right.
staff every day that don't lose patience. Today could be the 14th time.
Well, what we say in addiction studies is relapse is part of recovery.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have one other question that's kind of related. So you do these long-acting reversible contraception for women.
Yes.
Have you explored in doing the same for men?
I'm glad you brought that up. Part of this program is also a men's portion where we have a condom dispenser upon release. And
I'm not talking about a condom. I'm talking about long-acting, reversible contraception. It exists. I'm not sure how much it costs, but I bet there are some pharmaceutical companies that'd be happy to give you their samples to do their own studies for that. But there is such, it started out for men, and then now they're using it in veterinarian care for male dogs. But the reason why I ask is, you know, hypothetically, a man could have 365 children in 365 days. A woman, about one a year. So if you're really looking at getting rid of unintended pregnancies, I'd be looking at the long-acting reversible contraception for men. So can you look into that and get back to us as to where it is? I can tell you who did the research. It's a really interesting local story. Mr. Lisner, who does lifestyle homes up in Cold Springs, his daughter is a PhD, and she was featured in Outdoor magazine about 5 years ago, 7 years ago. This is her work. This is her original research. So you might even have some sort of, I'm not saying quid pro quo for developers, but there might be a way to get her locally interested, because we do have that connection at the jail at helping men manage their own reproduction rather than always looking at the woman as the person who's in charge of reproduction, and arguably much more effective. So I'll help you with it. But I'd like to
appreciate that,
see how
ma'am,
we could
and
maybe
we-
do that and be a beta site for that,
Yeah.
if that is at all possible. Obviously not to harm any man's ability to reproduce, but to long-acting and reversible, much like we do with women, but far more effective. And you'd see big numbers from that one. So I'd be happy to help you. I think you do a wonderful job. I couldn't think of anybody more suited to be in charge of detention facilities, because you have the compassion and the understanding and the kindness to treat what is probably the Northern Nevada's largest mental health facility, our county jail. So thank you for your service and all you do. I admire you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burke-Bigler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief Deputy Clark, thank you so much for taking this job. I was extremely excited to hear that the new sheriff hired you onto it, because I know your passion and I appreciate all the stuff you've done. At some point in time, I know we've had ICE in our jail. Do we still have access to an ICE representative who is in or out of our jail for federal prisoners or any of the other issues that are related to ICE?
ICE does come into our jail, but ultimately they manage a small population. Any of their inmates is no different than any other federal. We also hold people for the U.S. Marshals,
Right.
the FBI, DEA, all the federal entities, and ICE is just one of those federal entities.
Thank you for that. And I think it's important to point out to the public that Washoe County taxpayers as a whole support this jail, that there's no line item from the two cities or any other entities who provide prisoners into our jail other than the feds. And I understand that the Fed programs, some do some reimbursement, but I think it's important for all of us to understand that this truly is a regional Washoe County jail and all of the taxpayers support it. So there's a valuable interest for all of us to make sure that this is a top-notch jail.
Yes, ma'am. We have 16 different agencies that book into our jail.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioners, anyone else? Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, before you go on, I know we don't take public comment on presentations, but I did receive copy of correspondence to you from Anne Mary Grant, which I will place on the record
Thank
for
you.
this item. Thank you.
No, just final closing comments. The health of our jail is paramount, and its sustainability. And so I applaud the work that the sheriff is doing. I applaud the work that staff is doing. He can't do it without good staff and that collaborative effort. So, you know, Chief Deputy Clark, you and I have been friends for a long time, and I share Commissioner Jung's admiration. You know, I think you're doing a great job, and I'm glad you're there. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Madam Manager, item number 4.
Item number 4 is an appearance by D. Schaefer-Witten, Executive Director of Soulful Seeds, and it's a presentation on Northern Nevada Adult Mental Health Services Project.
Welcome. You know,
Thank you.
this is actually near and dear to my heart. I think that this is a wonderful project, and you know, I every time I get my hands in the soil, it's just cathartic
Oh,
for me.
isn't it?
It is.
I think that's true for everybody.
It's truly amazing what it does, and I have a tendency to lose time. I forget how long I've been sitting there, other than my knees remind me.
Yes, absolutely. I think most of us do.
Forgive me.
I know. I appreciate it. Well, we want to thank you for allowing us the time to present to you Soulful Seeds' proposal for the Community Neighborhood Garden Initiative on the Northern Nevada Adult Mental Health Facilities campus. And if I,
Do you have control?
there we go. So first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Soulful Seeds.
Please do me a favor.
Yes.
Just introduce yourself for the
Oh,
record.
I'm sorry. My name is Dee Schaefer-Witten. I am the Executive Director of Soulful Seeds.
Thank you.
No worries. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Soulful Seeds. We are a local nonprofit dedicated to creating a community-wide effort, maximizing the amount of fresh, healthy food provided to the most vulnerable in this community. Included in these populations are homeless, the working poor, seniors, veterans, and those with physical or intellectual disabilities. We achieved this vision based upon 4 core vision strategic pillars. Our community gardens are focused on partnerships with government, businesses, like-minded organizations, healthcare, foundations, and individuals, creating a food insecurity coalition that will maximize the amount of fresh food provided to those in need, reducing the duplication of services through collaborations and partnerships. There are 3 core pillars, however, that I would like to concentrate on today for this presentation. Neighborhood gardens, providing food as close to the populations that need it as possible. Education, teaching individuals how to provide for themselves. And workforce development, providing opportunities to really move people from poverty to sustainable independence. These are the pillars that are the basis for the NAMS project that we are proposing. So why a neighborhood garden on the NAMS campus? This campus provides a perfect opportunity to put a program in place that will help the vulnerable populations living there. This site will offer a sense of ownership, pride, community. There will be a curriculum developed that is cohesive with goals and the objectives of Washoe County Health and Human Services for those that live on site and work in the garden. Studies have been done nationally that show both physical and mental health benefits provided by community gardens for vulnerable populations. On the NAMS campus garden site, the residents will learn how to plant, grow, maintain, produce, harvest, and cook everything that is grown in a one-pot rice cooker. In a Nashville study, there was shown the therapeutic values that a garden like this provides, teaching gardening skills, healthy eating choices, and an understanding about sustaining personal and community food access. It also creates a sense of community purpose by providing extra food to those in need. The ultimate goal of this project, however, will be providing an opportunity for those who are successful, moving them from poverty to sustainable independence with a farmers market pavilion and ultimately through a nonprofit Soulful Seeds spice company, putting individuals back to work, enabling them to get their food, handling licenses, and partnering with local businesses who are in need of this type of a workforce. So where do we stand? We've been working with Stokegate developers who are assisting us with the site plan, fencing, permit requirements, water requirements, and have done our renderings for the projects. We have developed a preliminary budget, which I will review with you in a moment. In April, we submitted a land use application with the state of Nevada, which is pending the completion of the 10 years NAMS Campus Master Plan, of which I'm on the committee. Finally, we are poised to put our funding strategies and plan in place. However, we're unable to do so until the approval of the land has been achieved, and we know what the length and the terms of the usage are. To put this into perspective, here is a recent campus map. Washoe County vulnerable populations will be housed in the buildings highlighted in turquoise. However, we foresee that we would be able to assist other populations on the campus as well. The parcel that we are trying to access is located in the lower portion of that map, directly off of the Glendale. It's noted here underneath the 600/601 Women's Block. Here you will find pictures of our most recent renderings. At the top left is a bird's eye view of the garden site. Immediately to the right is a street view, and in the lower right is the Farmers Market Donors Appreciation Plaza, which will include an edible garden site. Our preliminary budget projections are as follows. As the project proceeds, it will be completed on a phased basis based upon the funding that is raised. We believe the staffing requirements for this project at a minimum will be a 0.5 full-time equivalent program project manager, a 1.0 full-time equivalent farm manager, and we have included $15,000 for administrative overhead, curriculum and development, and insurances. Phase 1 will include site preparation, grading, and land use. These costs will need to be determined, as well as the fencing. The site will need a storage building for equipment, tractor, irrigation, water usage, which we have been discussing with the county staff. We would put in 5 small greenhouses, row crops, a porta potty, and purchase the required hand tools, totaling about $78,800. Phase 2 would include 10 raised beds, 5 additional small greenhouses, and the irrigation requirements totaling $19,200. In Phase 3, we will install 2 large greenhouses, 30 by 100. However, I think it's important to note at this point, we are evaluating other options, including commercial hoop houses, which we believe would save a significant amount of money, as well as we believe that it would better meet the requirements of the state requirements more appropriately, as they are easy to be moved. With this in mind, the possible saving in this phase of the budget could be reduced by $100,000. This phase would also include a farmer's market stand, edible gardens, as well as the recognition plaza and required irrigation. Phase 4 would include additional large greenhouse. Again, this price would be reduced significantly from $75,000 to $25,000, orchard stock, soil, and irrigation. The total budget for this project is $475,300. With the cost reduction of the greenhouses, we are projecting a budget cost of $325,300. The following are notes to be considered when looking at the budget as well as the project. As I had talked about, we have not yet projected site prep, fencing, permitting, and land use. It is important for me to note, however, that we are expecting to seek some in-kind donations in this area. The expense of getting the water to the site, which is what we've been discussing with county staff, and as I have already discussed, the reduction of the greenhouse cost versus the hoop houses cost. Of course, everything is pending the approval of the state lands for the usage of the site. We submitted our original land proposal on April 12th, 2019. Although the state believes that the usage is conducive, it is pending the outcome of the 10-year master plan. It's important to note that we can only move forward from here until the usage is actually determined. And that's how we can make proposals to various funders moving forward. So we are poised to move forward with the funding campaign for this project. However, I think it's really important for me to point out that there are a couple of other larger community projects, one's with Northern Nevada Hopes, and another one that we're looking at, and we may have to move those funding requirements up first, depending upon how quickly we can get the approval for the land usage for this project. Again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present before the commission today. We find this a very exciting project, and we have had nothing but wonderful work with county staff, including Amber and Kate, on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, I have Vice Chair Lucy signed in first.
Thank you, Chairman. Wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for coming this morning, Dee. I have to say, the chairman and I last week, or the week prior to that, entertained the Nevada NACO conference here in Washoe County, where county officials and staff from across the state came to visit and see what's going on. And one of the tours we took them on was the NAMS campus. And from a number of these individuals, as we walked past the area that the community garden would go, it was so enlightening to so many people to see how we're utilizing that properly and really bring forth a cutting edge and a very forward-thinking project for so many in the community. And I can't thank you enough for the partnership from Soulful Seeds and what your group is trying to help us with at the NAMS campus. It was tremendous, and the responses we've got from those individuals were absolutely positive and tremendous. So thank you for your time and the commitment, and I look forward to really seeing this come to fruition and seeing the entire project at its greatest, because it will be an absolute gem, taking a piece of property that may have been forgotten by the state and totally reinvigorated here by the local community. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. We believe this is very much a national model. What Washoe County is investing and what you're really trying to do to give dignity to these individuals, we think is phenomenal. And if we can be a part of that, we really believe it's a model on a national basis.
Thank you so much for your continued commitment. I can't tell you enough how important it is to keep giving these individuals an opportunity for some self-sustainability and a new lot on life. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chairman.
Commissioner John.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your commitment and passion. And I have to point out the most beautiful package I've ever received in my life from a presenter. And I loved your little thank you card, and you get to pop it open. I thought there'd be seeds in here.
Oh, well, maybe that's next.
Next time. But this is beautiful.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for you. You're a nonprofit?
We are a nonprofit.
Okay, wonderful.
501c3.
And you said you're looking at irrigation and water, et cetera. Is there not water already at the property?
There's water at the property, but actually,
in the microphone.
I'm sorry. There's water at the property, but actually getting the water down to the garden site is something that the developer said we really have to look at.
Of course.
So we've been talking to Kate, who's passionate about this project, and we've been talking to her about the best way to actually get the access of that water down to the property
But
itself.
water that is provided there now, is that Tumwa water?
I'm not sure.
Yes, it is. Our engineer just said that.
Okay.
Thank you, subject matter expert.
Okay.
So what I'm asking the Tumwa representatives, why isn't this water being donated? This is a regional benefit that Tumwa, who has lots of money, I might tell you, they have the best books besides the RTC, that water should be donated to you. You should not have an irrigation. I'm not talking about laying the pipe work and stuff. That's
Right.
work and that's hard and that. But the water, please, Tumwa people, is there any program for nonprofits that we can? They don't ever have to worry about their water bill for growing food for the people that are residing there, as well as a potential to be an enterprise fund to sell at the farmers market, because I'll be there. It'll be my
Yeah.
favorite farmers market
Yes.
when you get up and running.
Yes.
So I think we should pursue pursue that. And I want to just state for the record, if it wasn't for Amber Howell, who, Mr. Mike Wilden, who I worked with, who's giving us consultation for communications, said there's nobody better in the entire state that understands social work, licensing. We thought we used to have somebody who was really good, and he's not bad, but Ms. Howell is the subject matter expert on this.
phenomenal.
And if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have this property. That was her relationship with the governor, Governor Sandoval. So I just want to make sure that that is set on the record. And it was her vision and her creation of this project, and could do no better in the entire state. I did consider her hire to be a coup from the state, from Mr. Governor Brian Sandoval, and have told him that several times, happy to steal his employee. So just want to make sure that's on the record.
We absolutely
and
believe
we
the same.
recognize our subject matter experts. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, anyone else? Well, my closing thoughts are much the same as my colleagues. Vice Chair Lucy and I had an opportunity to tour the campus, and we walked by this facility. I was deeply envious of how beautiful the soil is. It's this rich brown. We don't have soil like that in my backyard. I
No,
guarantee
we
you.
don't either.
It's been by the river for only Lord knows how long.
Right.
And it's been washed down, and it's wonderful. It's very, very fertile. But I do have another question. I know that we've talked about a farmer's market. Have we talked about possibly, and I'm sure you're familiar, I believe it's Dave's Killer Bread, and they've hired ex-felons. Not that there's the connection here is this. Have we thought about doing a restaurant where all of the funds from the proceeds basically from that go back into the program, and we only hire people other than staff members who can teach, chefs who are willing to come in and teach, and other staff members? Is there an opportunity there?
Well, I didn't get to speak a lot about it, but we're in the process of developing a not-for-profit spice company. And the reason I chose spices is because they're very safe in the production as far as laws and regulations. And so what we will be doing is creating a Newman's Own spice company.
Okay.
And the people, as they rehab through and are successful in the farmer's market,
Yes.
will then have the opportunity to go back to work into this company.
Exactly.
And that company will pay them. They'll get their food handler's license. We'll be working with other local businesses who require that type of an employee to put them back to work. So really, it's moving people from poverty to sustainable independence. That's the ultimate goal, and that's why we have those 4 core pillars that we concentrate on.
I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can, and spices are great, but restaurants.
Oh, absolutely.
People can really, they can get behind that, and if I know that I'm going to spend, go out and spend $100 on a meal in an evening, and all of those profits are going back into the program, and you've hired all people in the program and put them to work, and give them a skill set. Whether it's in the kitchen, or whether it's management, or just how to run a business. I think that there's a real opportunity there, and I think the community would really get behind it.
And I think that's really in our workforce development pillar, that's our core focus. I think there's many ways that we can do it. I think there's a lot of different types of models or those types of things. But it creates sustainability not only for the organization, but it creates sustainability for those individuals that are working
Absolutely.
and making an hourly rate.
Absolutely. It gives them a fresh start and
Yes.
a reason and a career.
Right.
I'm
Right.
thankful for you, and I'm thankful for our staff.
Yes.
Ms. Howell, Ms. Thomas, you guys have put a lot of time into this. I know Mr. Wilden has been very instrumental as well. So I cannot begin to express my debt of gratitude. These are the kinds of programs that can lift people up and out.
I think so.
And I love
That's
it.
what we believe.
I love it.
Yes.
Okay, commissioners, anyone else? All right,
Thank you.
thank you so much. Madam Manager, item number 5.
Item number 5 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. The commission will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
Madam Clerk, would you call public comment?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. First up is Ms. Diane Hirschberg, and following her will be Mr. Mike Hess. And for the record, Ms. Hirschberg provided me with handouts for the board, and I'll distribute those and place it on the record.
Welcome, ma'am.
Good morning. Nice to see you all. I've handed you 2 handouts, and I'm a resident of Incline Village, and I'm here to speak about short-term rentals. The first is a set of short-term rental neighborhood compatibility guidelines that last week Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, after several years of work, finally completed. And I wanted to tell you how important these are. These are a set of guidelines for drafting ordinances that are basically to make the neighborhoods more sustainable for the people who, as you've been hearing, we've had a lot of complaints about the problems that we're having. These guidelines started in 2015 with TARPA bringing in 2 outside consultants, Host Compliance and another national firm, to suggest ways to keep the neighborhoods good while still allowing short-term rentals. TARPA has been working on this since 2015. By 2017, all of the other local governments other than Washoe County had begun enacting ordinances. Since 2017, those ordinances of Douglas, El Dorado, and Placer, the other counties, have all been amended and updated to help the neighborhoods become better. And this work product is the result of that. And we're hoping, those of us who live in Incline, that you'll really take a look at this. One of the things that Washoe is doing is looking at, as they've said, balancing different interests, and I don't think that all of the recommendations in this group are going to be in what you're going to bring us. And we're hoping that as commissioners who are really worried about also our well-being, that you'll realize that a lot of these guidelines can be very helpful to all of us. Now, I want to look at a win-win for all of us. The neighborhoods want protective guidelines, but this is good for everyone. The realtors who are property managers get a big win out of this because these guidelines say every STR should have a local property manager. Of course, you're going to want to have the property managers that live in Incline or perhaps down in Reno doing this, but you're going to want local property managers. The realtors are now going to be able to tell their prospective buyers, whether they're investors or rent or owners who want to live there, what are the better areas in Incline to live in. Washoe County will be able to still get its transient occupancy tax. So really, in adopting protections like these would give us would be great for all of us. It would be a win-win for all of us. And to do less, when you think that these have been worked on since 2015 by the other local jurisdictions, by consultants that are national consultants, and by your local governments, I hope that you'll really give a lot of concern and consideration to what is contained in these. The second thing I gave you was just a statute that talks about homeowners association rules and regulations, that those should, oh, I'm finished. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyways, thank you for considering.
Thank you.
Mr. Mike Hess, followed by Ms. Janelle Davis, and Mr. Hess has also provided a handout, which I'll distribute to the board.
Welcome, sir.
I'm Mike Hess, a resident of Incline Village. I believe that TRPA has passed a reasonable base of regulations through their work with the short-term rental neighborhood compatibility guidelines. I think Washoe County should adopt them and implement them as is, without altering them as suggested by Commissioner Burke-Bigler and the Washoe County staff. I also find it alarming to hear the commissioner state that she sees TRPA enforcement through housing allocations as having no impact on Washoe. As a member of the Lake Tahoe community, I find it discouraging that the mission of TRPA will be degraded and ignored so easily by a member such as Washoe County. If Washoe County no longer believes in TRPA and its mission, then I suggest it resign its membership and let someone else join who does care about its mission. I intend to push TRPA for enforcement regulations on Washoe County. At a minimum, special use permits should be required for any STR. Just like bed and breakfast, which is a commercial activity. That is at least to ensure that we keep the Lake Tahoe environmental issues in the front and don't care about tax dollars going to Washoe County. I look forward to seeing your regulations. We have waited patiently. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next is Ms. Janelle Davis, followed by Mr. Chuck Slavin. And Ms. Davis has provided handouts, which I will distribute to the board.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Janelle Davis. I'm the communications officer for the state agency, the Silver State Health Insurance Exchange. And basically, I thank you for your opportunity to be here. I want to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. The Nevada Exchange oversees the online health insurance marketplace that is certified through the Affordable Care Act, and our online marketplace is known as Nevada HealthLink. And so we connect eligible Nevada residents to qualified health plans throughout the state of Nevada. And so we're doing some really exciting things this year. Nevada is trailblazing for other states. We are transitioning away from the federal technology platform known as healthcare.gov. So what that means for our state and for our eligible residents that are accessing these health plans, they will not be enrolling on the technology platform for this plan year. So starting on November 1st of this year, eligible Nevada residents will go to nevadahealthlink.com instead of the federal technology platform healthcare.gov. And so our open enrollment period is only 45 days. It's November 1st through December 15th. And that means that when they enroll during that open enrollment period, that their plans will start January 1st of 2020. So what's new this year is that we are transitioning. We also have 27 qualified health plans that we're offering on the exchange, and we have 3 carriers offering the plans. And so we're welcoming back Health Plan of Nevada, Silver Summit, which is a Centene corporation, also known as Ambetter to consumers. And then we're also welcoming back Anthem HMO, which is really exciting. So it's a sign of stability within the marketplace that we have 3 different insurance carriers offering 27 health plans on the exchange, and that's throughout the entire state of Nevada. We also offer standalone dental plans, so there are 17 of those from 6 different carriers. Why we're here today is that a recent report from the Gwynn Center stated that there's still over 100,000 eligible Nevada residents throughout the state who are uninsured. And so Washoe County is our second county that has over 13,000 people who are enrolled. And so I really just want your help to talk to your constituents and share all of our information. I have provided some resource guides for you. And then please contact me if you have any questions. As the communications officer, I have a lot of different media assets and resources that you can provide your constituents, because a lot of people don't know that they would be eligible for these health plans. Over 80% of our enrollees are eligible for financial assistance known as subsidies. So we need your help to reach our goals. And again, please feel free to contact me with any questions. And again, really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Mr. Chuck Slavin, followed by Mr. Mike Widmer.
Mr. Slavin, welcome.
And Mr. Slavin has a handout, which I'll distribute to the board.
My name is Chuck Slavin. Mike Widmer is here with me today to give you an update on the Charters of Freedom display that was approved about a year ago for the site of the old courthouse in downtown Reno. Shortly after that project was approved, county staff, Mike and I, realized that the site begged to have some landscaping associated with the display. We contacted TMCC faculty, their landscape architecture program, and created a design competition for landscape architecture students. We received, I think it was 4 students participated in the competition. 1 was ultimately selected, and I think you may have a copy of a rendering of that design. In any event, during that design competition, we learned that because the county courthouse is on the city's register of historic buildings, we needed to go in front of the Reno Historic Resources Commission to get approval for our project. Mike Widmer led that application process and can provide you an update on the current status and our recommendation to the county going forward.
Good morning, Mike Widmer. Our first scheduled meeting with this commission, the Historical Commission, was in May. We were scheduled to show up, and on that day, the meeting was, there was not going to be a quorum, so we were asked to come back 2 months later, which we did, which was in August, and our presentation was given. There was a unanimous denial of our application for our certificate of appropriateness. However, there was no reason given. There was no opportunity to discuss the financial obligations that we have undertaken, which, by the way, we've raised between funds, cash funds, and in-kind services approximately $20,000 towards this project. However, there's a saint, if you will, on the City of Reno's planning staff member who has been helping to guide us along this process, and he was able to, for good reason, get us in front of this commission, the Historical Commission, on this coming Thursday to address the financials that we've undertaken at this point. However, I suspect that we will be denied. That's just my opinion at this point, at which point then we would be allowed to petition a protest to the City Council, and I have no idea when we could be on that board. But today we've been suspending our fundraising just because of the unsurety of this project at this site. This has been 5 months. I anticipate at least 1 to 2 more months if we continue down this road. There is another option for this board to follow, and that is to simply, it's a simple process to remove this property from the City of Reno's register. And again, this member of the planning staff at Reno is given his assurances that he can help lead us down that path. So having said all of that, in order to get this project moving forward, Chuck and I would like this board to consider removing the property from the City of Reno's register. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Next is Ms. Rebecca Stetson, followed by Mr. Jeff Church.
Welcome,
Good
Ms.
morning.
Stetson.
Good morning. Rebecca Stetson for the record. I wanted to speak on 2 items. Am I allowed to do that?
You have 3 minutes, ma'am. You can
3
speak
minutes.
on
Okay.
anything that you like.
Perfect. So the first item I'll make really quick is I sent you all an email invitation for this event, Horse Rich and Dirt Poor. The elevator pitch is that 98% of wildlife depend on meadows to survive, and because of the lack of management of wild and feral horses and burros across the state, we have a huge declination in our wildlife populations happening based on the destruction of our meadows. This panel discussion will be super educational. The issue I've been studying for 3 years in my environmental consulting, and I still don't know all the different facets of the issue as much as research as I have done and how many experts I've talked to. So this panel includes wild horse advocates, riparian scientists, wildlife biologists, BLM folks, everyone's at the table. We had a great meeting with Catherine Cortez Masto 2 Saturdays ago. She's really excited at the way that we're coming together, so please come and learn, or if you know folks who are not educated, or I don't know that anyone's that educated on this issue, please send them for our event in the Museum of Art on October 23rd. Secondly, I wanted to speak to Soulful Seeds Project. I'm the Chief Encouragement Officer and founder of Farmily, which is a nonprofit in town that teaches social emotional learning through permaculture gardening, primarily to Boys and Girls Club kids. And I've been in the food community for a long time here in Northern Nevada, and it's so beautiful to see how much we're growing. I had the pleasure of working on the Climate Action and Sustainability Plan for the last 2 years for the city of Reno, and this food portion is a huge part of us really combating climate change as the fastest warming city in the nation. It also is so beneficial. Thank you, Hartung, for talking about your experience with your hands in the soil. There's nothing like having the sun shining on your face and being a creator in the sense of working with the land to create food. I personally got into farming some time ago because I love to eat and I love the finest of foods. And so this is a project that I'm in full support of. That property at NAMS is something that many of us have been dreaming on to see something like this happen. And nature-based therapy is so incredibly powerful. I've worked in mental health in Nevada for a long time, and with us ranking as the worst in mental health for youth and like 48th for adults, we need alternative opportunities like this to really heal our people. Thank you guys. And gals.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next is Mr. Jeff Church, followed by Miss Elise Weatherly. And Mr. Church also provided handouts, which I'll distribute to the board.
Mr. Church, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much. My name is Jeff Church. I run our website, renotaxrevolt.com. Today I want to talk about a very important issue that you've heard before, affordable housing. Now, number one, please don't kill the messenger, but a legal beaver forwarded some information to me. It's been proposed that the GST tax be used, the annual vehicle registration tax be increased to support affordable housing. That individual forwarded me information on the on the Nevada Constitution, Articles 9 and 10, that basically indicate roads, that tax can only be used for road information, road purposes, and must be uniform statewide. That was supported by 4 different Nevada Attorney General opinions and case law. So I'm just the messenger, but your legal advisor, Mr. Lipparelli, has that information, and I'll put it on the record again, but it needs research before we go any farther with that. Number 2, on a lighter note, there's a great new regional study on affordable housing out, 286 pages long. I hope you've read it cover to cover. It has 9 great ideas that involve no tax increase, 23 funding source possibilities, some of which involve no tax increase. It's a great document. A couple of things they may be omitted, but I think it's a great document. And so I have a summary that it's been handed out to you on that. And I kept it down to, I think, 2 pages out of 286. I also gave you a handout on mitigating homeless problems, homeless crisis. So I hope you have time to read that. That's only 1 page. And then troubling, I attended the CHAB the other day, the homeless board, and we had a presenter on the affordable housing Sage Street property that's been open for 3 months now. I think out of 220 units, if I heard right, only 80 are occupied. What's up? Do they not want to obey the rules? I mean, what is up? This is troubling. And so when we do go forward with affordable housing, let's not make any more same mistakes again. Let's not fund something that's not going to be occupied. I mean, it's extremely, and members yesterday expressed their frustration. And I urge you that any future funding, however it comes for affordable housing, be measurable, that it has oversight, very importantly, that it's sunset, perhaps contingent on matching funds, that it can be terminated if it doesn't work, and that's a subsidy, and that's what spells out in that affordable housing. It's a subsidy. It's not free housing, free enabling housing for the homeless. And in my 21 seconds left, that study did omit 2 things that I think are important. Relocation assistance, that frees up housing. Say an elderly person wants to move to California to their parents, that we could assist them. And then also light rail, which takes the people needing affordable housing, say to Fernley or Carson City. That works for everybody and is great for the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Miss Elise Weatherly, followed by Mr. Michael Pitkin.
Welcome, Ms.
Hi, Elise Weatherly, Washoe County resident. I kind of wish we could give Mr. Church 10 minutes to speak. I think that would be very nice. Today, I would like to do a system logic check. This has to do with programming, which is factored into every single element of our lives. Did you guys know that? First, let me explain the shirt that I'm wearing. This is called the Angry Inch Mob. This was my brother, Mark Lowell Anderson's band. They were not angry. They were nice guys. Can you imagine living in such a fair, equitable, just, kind, truthful world and still being angry? Come on. Do you know what my brother wanted before he died? He wanted to shine, and he wanted the truth. Well, guess what? He found out the truth, but it was too late. By the time he took his last breath, it was too late. So let's talk about systems instead, okay? I learned from a very intelligent HR clerk in your Washoe County business that the only problem, the only way a system is good is dependent on who's running it. If they're not running it well, then it's not going to be a good system. So I'm doing a little research, on SAP and Paul Orphan and all that kind of stuff, and I looked up something about, well, when was Paul Orphan convicted of embezzlement? How much did he take? How many years did he serve? How much did he pay back? And as I'm doing it, there I see Jeff Church's, website talking about it. Well, he embezzled $2.2 million, and he was sentenced to 30 years in prison. That was in 2008. He's been released now, and he collects PERS. So I get to pay for him being released from prison. By the way, when we were in grade school together, he was a rotten person. He still is. Okay, so how about that system that was in place? Do you know who caught Paul Orphan? It was a clerk. So what I did was I did a little investigation from some businessmen that I know that are intelligent men. I said, what would you have to say about this matter? Because I actually talked to people and listened to them. So I got two brief statements. Crooked people don't want to be audited. That's from an internal audit manager. They don't want to be audited. Another man who owns his own business says taxes should not be increased to pay for the lawbreakers. Huh. Well, here's my daughter. I gave her a greenhouse, and I gave her a garden, and I gave her a car. She crashed and destroyed all of them. She is not vulnerable. I also want to check with you guys about your nonprofit for the Soulful Seeds, which, by the way, one of the people out here said that was a scam artistry at its finest, and I just went, yes, sir, thank you. What about me having to pay for a car for a teenager that can't be raised by the homeless educated woman because she's too busy with her drugs and stuff? Well, I will be paying taxes for that car so that I can help pay my daughter to be more homeless. Does that make any sense to you guys? Is this logical at all? I wish I had more time because we could talk about HIPAA and Renown. And by the way, you have a lot of teenagers on your side, but there's a whole lot of residents in this community that say the decisions that are being made are not logical. By the way, if you were Renowned, would you hire a DUI person to run your healing ministry? Would you? Thanks.
Mr. Michael Pitkin,
ma'am.
followed by Mr. Michael Welling. We need the overhead, please.
Welcome, Mr. Pitkin.
Welcome back. My name is Michael Pitkin. Here in Reno, 20 to 30 new HIV infections every year. Of those, 12 to 13 end in AIDS. These are your numbers. As leaders, you are failing. Data shows these new infections are not coming from homosexual HIV positives like myself, but rather from those on the down low, perhaps heterosexuals dealing with religious, racial, cultural stigma and shame. I want to talk about the 90-90-90 initiative, a plan 8 years ago from the world's top doctors for cities to reach by 2020, where 90% are aware of their HIV status, of which 90% are on HIV treatment, of which 90% are virally suppressed. This will stabilize the spread of HIV and bring costs down. This plan is supported by HRSA, CDC, and the National Institutes of Health. Even Trump supports this plan towards a cure in 2030. Seattle reached their goals in 2017. Just last month, London exceeded their goals to 95, 95, 95. Now I want to talk about the 5 HIV prevention pillars. Action pillar number 1, programs for females and their male partners in high prevalence locations.
Pillar number 2, HIV services in all countries. Pillar number 3, condom programs. Pillar number 4, voluntary male circumcision in priority areas. Pillar number 5, post and pre-exposure prophylaxis, PEP and PrEP, for high-risk groups. When I hear that our friend Meredith Tanzer of Eddy House got the funding that was already allocated for pillar number 5, Washoe County Public Health Interventions, this is unacceptable. I am not opposed to helping homeless youth, so today I am before you asking for your support to help make those funds up. As leaders, as you all are leaders, I will be contacting each of you. I will be asking for your courage to speak up about all of this in public outside of this venue. I will ask you to break the stigma and shame happening here that, in my opinion, is criminal. You each have a copy I've provided for HIV resources, so no more excuses. Thank you.
Mr. Michael Welling, followed by Ms. Mallory King.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Michael Welling. I'm a North Valley's resident, a citizen, and a voter. And I'm asking you on October 22nd, when the Silver Hills zoning amendment comes before you, that you not have that item come before the public before 6 p.m. due to the significance and the impact of the rezoning or of the zoning amendment that is going to be on your agenda that evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Mallory King, followed by Ms. Hawa Namizada.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. So I am just here to speak in support for Soulful Seeds. I did want to acknowledge how exciting it was to hear of the support from the chair and the commissioners. It really brings my heart. I just found Soulful Seeds last October, and it's been really amazing just to know of a program that's out there that's really working to get local food to people in need and without resources. It's been one of my passions for a while, and it's been something that I've been really trying to get involved with. Every time, I'm born and raised in Reno, Nevada, but I've left a couple of times, and every time I come back, seeing the food movement grow has just been so incredible to watch it flourish. A few weeks ago, I actually helped throw a fundraiser for Soulful Seeds, which we called the Heart for Food Justice. We actually feel it was more of a friend raiser because we were really trying to just bring awareness around their project and also get younger people to be aware of it as well, and just spread what's happening, and also kind of tie in more of an artful expression as well, because there's a lot of people that really can relate to art and the way that messages can be carried through that mode of carrying messages. Anyways, yeah, and so it landed really well in the community, and I had actually a lot of other people come to me and ask how they can be a part of it, how they can support Soulful Seeds. There's actually a ton of both students and friends that wish they could be here today but aren't because of jobs and schools. And I just also want to say I really value what Soulful Seeds is doing, and especially Erston and Dee's Heart. It's just so open, and they're welcoming to anybody. And I actually know of a few students that are currently homeless, and just being able to go to them and being able to access good food and share in community that is provided by the garden, it's just so healing for them. And so I just wanted to speak in support. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Hawa Namizada, and please correct the pronunciation of your name when you get to the microphone.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's pronounced Hawa Namezada. Thank you for providing this opportunity. I just want to give a little background on myself. I've been volunteering at ATC, which is in the same building area as the project that Soulful Seed wants to work on in the Mental Health Institute. And I've been volunteering there with 5 other local artists, and we've been providing about 2 hours a week of art expression for the kids. And we go in and they're basically there for a set amount of months. They did something or are rehabilitating from a mental illness, and we show them different expressions of art, and we teach them how to draw or teach them how to write poetry, and it's been really powerful to see their expression when we get in. It's like they wait all week for us. We just hope to show them an outlet when they get out of those rehabilitation centers, to provide them with a safe, different, something to get out of their habitual routines that might get them back in those centers. And as I heard of Soulful Seeds project to provide a farmer's market in that exact center, it lit me up, because not only is farmer market about selling the food and vendors, it's also a sense of networking and community. I figured if the kids come out of there, they'll see this weekly, and then when they get out and they're dismissed from their program, they'll be able to come back to that and find their community there. And not only that, but find jobs within the farmers market and growing once they graduate from their programs. I put in a garden in February over with the kids at ATC, which when the map comes back up, it's on the lower left or the lower right side. And I got the plants and everything donated from Moana Nursery. They were really kind. And the kids were excited, and it's a small garden box. It's only 2 tomato plants and a couple squash, but I can only imagine if they were able to go to a garden or a farm with greenhouses right down in the center where they're rehabilitating, and see this constantly and come back to it when they go back to school. Gives them another place and another home, rather than some of their friend groups or what might bring them into dangerous situations. So I just found out about Soulful Seeds a couple months ago, and I was able to donate an art piece to their fundraiser that Mallory was just talking about. And so I really support this, and the kids that I work with would love to see it happen in the center that they're at. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
That was all the people I had signed in under number 5, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have no one else signed in. Is there anyone else wishing to speak under this item? Okay. And what I'll have to have you do, you can speak, but then I'll need you to sign a card with the clerk.
I thought I did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In any event, my name is Urshan Whitten. I am listed as the founder of Soulful Seeds, but I am not the founder. I'm the co-founder, as my wife has presented to you earlier. You probably know that she's really running things. But in any event, I want to give you a little bit of background about me, because it's what drives me to want to do things for this community. I was raised in a family with 14 children, 3-bedroom house, no electricity, no plumbing, segregated school system, and out of that scenario, I'm here today. I spent time in the military and 30 years at a corporation. So when I came to Reno about 12 years ago, I just connected with the community. I am a local master gardener from the Cooperative Extension, and I have been the board chair for the food co-op for the last 4 years. I'm in my final year coming up. I will be ending next August. But in any event, the reason I tell you all of this is because I believe in possibilities. You know, we all have difficulties from our life, but we can succeed. And I see this project with Soulful Seeds as an opportunity to do that. And I do appreciate your listening to our story, and I look forward to giving you updates in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, would you make sure that you have Mr. Whitten's information?
Thank you.
Mr. Whitten, I just need you to make sure that we have a card signed. Okay. Anyone else? All right, I will close public comment and bring it back to the board. Madam Manager, item number 6, please.
Yes. Item number 6 is Commissioners, County Managers' announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commission updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas.
Okay. All right, Commissioners, I have And by the way, I want to thank everyone for coming before we start from Soulful Seeds. I see the restaurant is called Soulful Bowlful. I do. I'm serious. The Soulful Bowlful. All right, Vice Chair Lucy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the comments this morning and what we were talking about, especially comments as it pertains to NAMS campus. As I alluded to earlier, we were able to host the Northern Nevada, or the Nevada NACO conference here in Washoe County, and show many individuals last Thursday and Friday of September. Some of the wonderful things that are going on here in Washoe County. And one of the things that came up during especially the tour of the NAMS campus was a potential for a partnership between UNR and County Human Services. Many of the individuals, what I'd like staff to look into is many of the students that are working on potential social services degrees or psychology degrees need clinical training and hours as it pertains to their degrees and their furtherment within the school. And so what I would like to see is if there is a way that we can set up meetings, and I'm happy to participate with the UNR staff to identify some potential opportunities at the NAMS campus to utilize students to work with our social services, our social worker managers and whatnot, and how we can address maybe some of the staffing needs from a part-time basis and an internship level for those individuals. And then what I'd also like to do as we talk about Soulful Seeds and some different things, work with Nevada, with the cooperative extension. As a county, we do fund cooperative extension. We do send tax dollars to cooperative extension. I'd like to see a report kind of how that money is being dispersed and how maybe we could reallocate or work with cooperative extension. They have a new regional director and state director that has presented to us before, but I'd really like to identify how we can move forward and work with cooperative extension to maybe make a program that may be short of funding fruitful from utilizing some of those cooperative extension dollars, and just some brief conversation with the cooperative extension. They were interested with the program and what we could do there on campus. So a lot of great things that we can make the NAMS campus and truly into a community center that addresses not just homelessness within the region, but really addresses a number of issues as it pertains to county growth and county development, and really making a national model. I really truly believe that. So if we can look into that, Madam Manager, I would appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lucy. Commissioner Burke-Bigler, I have you next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I love Soulful Seeds. I love the whole concept. I live in the Old Southwest and right off of Mayberry, and they're of course farming in the park area right there. And I farm in my own backyard. I grew up with farming parents, and so to me, a house has to have a garden. You have to be able to dig in the dirt. When I go home from a long day of, or a long week of meetings here, that's where I find myself in the backyard digging in the soil, because it really does connect you and bring you comfort and peace in your heart. So I am very supportive of everything that you guys are doing, and I think it's so wonderful that we have people here in this community who care enough about those who are underprivileged and who have mental health problems, and they're willing to step out and do it, and students like the ones who are here today. I love it. Of course, there's no one better than Ms. Howell. She's the best of the best, and Ms. Thomas has done an excellent job of supporting her and backing her up and helping her on the NAMS campus, and I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see 5 years down the road what that campus is going to be like. It's going to be fun. So that's the positive stuff. Now for the comment regarding studded snow tires. I am receiving, and have been actually for about a month, receiving a number of email complaints from my Incline Village people who are saying that there are people up there who have driven with studded snow tires all summer long. I thought the state law was you could use them from a certain month to a certain month. but apparently that's not being followed in Incline, and I'm not really sure who's responsible for that. If it's the sheriff, I see one of our wonderful Jeff Clark is still sitting here, so I would love for him to take it back to the sheriff, and if possible, please check and see if there's some, I think it actually starts October 1st. So I think they can drive with them now, but it's certainly been an issue all summer, and I'm just been remiss in not getting it to you earlier. So if you could look into that, I'd really appreciate it. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Herman, I have you signed in next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding the monument that they would like, Mr. Slavin and his gentleman that was with him, we need to help that get done. Yeah, no, the one about the,
Charters of Freedom.
yeah, right. And so we need to do that. If there's something I can do to help, let me know. So that was an important thing. And then remember the Hilliers that came in here, and they had a semi-trailer that had been on their property, and we had sent staff to bring us back a changed document on the cargo containers. And so they had to go before the Board of Adjustment this last week in order to kind of keep that wait, because they're waiting and waiting for this to come back so they don't have to remove that. So I'm hoping we can speed up that process, because it's slated for sometime in the spring. And if they don't have that off the property by March, then they have to remove it. I mean, they have to remove it if we haven't changed the law by then. So the 6 p.m. thing, yes, I asked for that last time, and I'd like that to be done. Thank you very much. Oh, one more thing. Rebecca Stetson, regarding wildlife and that program they're going to have downtown on that would be very educational for anybody that wanted to go. It's going to be extremely educational. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jung, I have you signed in next.
Thank you. I can attest to Madam Commissioner Burke-Bigler's great gardening skills as she brought in a couple bags of green tomatoes, red tomatoes, and small hook neck squash from her last of her bounty. So I'm wildly impressed. I also went through the Master Gardener program, and I don't have those mad skills yet. I've been here 20 years from California, and it's a big difference in gardening here. These plants have to have a will to live to make it here. California, you just throw the seeds behind your back, walk away, come back a year later, everything's beautiful. So, but I love that challenge too of Nevada. If it was easy, I probably wouldn't be doing it here. I have a couple announcements and then some staff requests. I attended, thanks to you taxpayers, the University Environmental Development, the University Economic Development Association's annual summit. We hosted it this year, UNR did, as they are a member, and it was held at the Whitney Peak Hotel, which is a gorgeous property if you haven't gone there. And I learned so much about what universities are doing in the economic development area, especially when it comes to opportunity zones and getting investors to move out of, in the opportunity zones, always wanting to go to housing and rental units because the return on the investment is between 10 and 11%, and trying to encourage them to go into commercial development in opportunity zones. The return is about 8%, but it also is an opportunity when you've flushed out the housing area of an opportunity zone. So that's just one takeaway. It was from all over the country, and Nova Scotia was represented at my table. So it really was a great learning experience for me, and I'm going to dig deeper with our I thought we had an economic development manager, but I think that was changed as well. But I want to dig deeper with what we're doing with all the features and benefits that come with it. That's more than just an opportunity zone. There's all kinds of other programs that the feds are providing to further develop. I also attended the Senior Advisory Joint Meeting between Sparks, Washoe County, and the City of Reno. They have devised an elder services guide and their resources. If you would like some, let me know. I know all of us service service seniors as constituents. As is typical with any guide that you print, there is an error on this, so no need to talk about it right now. Somebody will figure it out, but that's why printing makes me nervous. But I also understand not everybody has a cell phone to have an app on it, and not everybody has internet access, especially our senior population. But there is good info in here if you want. If you'd like more, I can get you all copies of that. Also, I again attended that salon that I talked to you about at UNR for the engineering students. They're juniors, seniors, and grad students. These are 1-hour sessions in the evening. I went for my second one, and this was about air quality management by one of our very own, Mr. Inmate from Air Quality. And I'll tell you, he should be a professor. I learned more in that 1 hour than I've learned in all the years that I've been on the Board of Health and the chair of the Board of Health, just simply about air quality here and how important it is, obviously, from a public health standpoint. We have to measure that because it's not good for humans and animals to be breathing that air, probably not good for plants either. Also, it's environmental issue, but most importantly, economic development issue. People that get into non-attainment with the EPA become more expensive to operate their businesses, and people will then locate to other states and counties that don't have the lack of attainment into, most specifically for this area is smoke in the winter and particulate, and in the summer, well now it's year round, and finite small particulate matter that gets kicked up with all kinds of business that we hear, mostly traffic. So that was a great 1-hour session, and I have to say I was wildly impressed with him, and the students loved it too. You could see that they were getting it, they understood it. He was wonderful. He didn't use acronyms. You notice all of these people get up here and use acronyms, and then you think, but he was wonderful because he recognized that there were grad students in there and juniors and seniors who are new to this community. He didn't say Tumwa, Truckee Meadows Water Authority. I mean, he was really specific, and I think that's a kindness to people that are not from here, that are new to here and want to understand the way this community works. I also attended with Commissioner Herman and other elected officials the Sierra Nevada Job Corps Center's 40th anniversary luncheon last week. Wonderful, well attended, and a great celebration. And now to some requests. That's what I've been working on and running around doing, just for the satisfaction of this board and the constituents. I do have a request. The Nevada Health link that was presented here, can we please get that on our website as well as on our channel programming? I'm sure they have tons of canned video, et cetera, that needs to get out there and get to people that can use that. A second thing that I would like to hear about from subject matter experts is what is the positive and negatives to conform with or not conform with Douglas County, El Dorado County, Placer County, Carson City, and then us, Washoe County. Those are all the places that touch Lake Tahoe. Positive and negatives. Do we conform? Do we not conform? Are there environmental and specific issues? Because if we're not conforming at the lake level, my gut is there's going to be some positive and negatives, but I don't know what they are. Not a planner, not a subject matter expert on this, and don't pretend to be. So if we could please get a staff report on that. What are all the counties doing? I know one's being sued over it, which makes me a little nervous too, but I would like to know what are the rest of the rules, laws, and regulations around the entire lake. And then also to remind this board and all citizens, any law we make for short-term rentals, I know Incline Village is getting the most noise for this. It affects the entire unincorporated county. And to say that no other part of the unincorporated county is attractive for short-term rentals, you are not paying attention to the special events out here. So especially when we have an RSCVA that's made it as their goal to become the special events capital of the world. So we need to be very careful how we affect everyone. We cannot spot zone specifically. That's against the law. We've tried to do this for years. It's totally against the law to spot zone. Positive and negatives to that too. And then finally, since we still have our lieutenant deputy sheriff, I forgot to ask, and I would like a report back on, this board gave clear direction after one of the suicides that we had in the jail, or death, I don't know if it was a suicide or a death, that we would not accept hog-tied prisoners. And we did accept a hogtie prisoner that died, and it did not come from anybody that we cuffed and stuffed. It was another agency. I want to know if we're enforcing that and how. They can do whatever they want to their prisoner until they come into our doors, when then we take personal liability and responsibility for these human beings. So I do want to see how that's been communicated, what has been the compliance rate, where is it written, can I see where it's written, and how we're getting that out to the other, as you said, we service 16 other agencies that bring people into our jail that we are liable for, financially and morally liable for those human beings. So I want to see that, what is going on with that. That was a direct concern, considering a major payout that we did in a hog tying situation. And that is all I have at this point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. And yeah, those unapproved restraints, I think they've already made that change. That was something that was brought up. I don't disagree at all. So for me, just a couple of different things. I too would like to see the Charters of Freedom property, if there's an issue with it being in the City of Reno's register, then let's bring that back, Madam Manager. I'm doing what you've done, Commissioner. And you know, I mean, I don't know what we have to do. We gave clear direction, and I believe unanimous direction, for the Charters of Freedom to be able to do their project. And then what I'd also like to see is, and I know that staff may be listening, but I still am pushing for a change in our developmental code to reflect the use of open space as agri-hoods. And I see no reason why as agri-hoods, agri-hood. And an agri-hood is nothing more than when a developer comes in and says, I'm going to dedicate a certain amount of open space, that open space becomes farmland and used for agricultural. And this isn't something that I sat up at 2 o'clock in the morning and said, I've got this great idea. This has been practiced maybe even worldwide. I know of a number of places throughout the nation that utilize agri-hoods, and it's wonderful. And in fact, some of these places are so difficult to get into because they're so desirable that I just can't see why we would not want to change our developmental code to reflect that use. That's just me. And Commissioner, I think that this is wonderful. Commissioner Jung, I've always used transportation. And the wrong phone number, oh dear. But this is wonderful. Elder Services, I am dealing with this with my own family, as most of you well know, and it is so difficult. So many elderly residents do not have advocates, and that is the most difficult part. I mean, I know how hard I've tried to advocate for my parents, and it is very, very difficult. So I think that this is wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner Jung. Okay. I will bring it up again. We need, and the sheriff has been wonderful. First of all, I want to thank the sheriff and their motor officers for patrolling Dolores. I saw that Dolores, there was a stop. A citizen took a picture of someone who had been exceeding the speed limit going down Dolores Avenue in Spanish Springs. We still need to look at what kind of possible controls, because enforcement can only go so far. So I really want to see that come back to us. And there's a number of streets that we have this same issue in Spanish Springs. And what we see is there are these older neighborhoods which were not designed with the thoughtfulness that the newer neighborhoods are, to have these natural speed controls by the curves and the limited access streets. And so it's just, unfortunately, it's a very, very dangerous situation, and we really do need to address it sooner rather than later. Okay, did I knock anything loose for any other commissioners? All right, let's move on. Madam Manager, item number 7.
Item number 7 is the consent agenda, and it includes item 7A1 through item 7F2.
Okay, Commissioners, anyone wishing to pull any items out of the consent agenda or have anything explained? Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Herman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was looking at 7C and thinking that that's a very good idea to get those delinquent properties back on the tax rolls. So we get them off to auction, and there are also about 20 parcels up in the Monte Cristo that are large acreages that actually are in the county's ownership, and they need to actually be back on the tax rolls too. So I am applauding the 7C item, and I think that I don't have any more questions now, because I did, but I don't now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so you have no questions, you just wanted to make mention of that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Commissioners, anyone else on the consent agenda? Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Burke-Bigler, second by Commissioner Jung. Madam Clerk, would you call public comment on the consent agenda, please?
Mr. Jeff Church?
I don't see Mr. Church in the audience.
Looks like he's left.
Okay. All right. I don't see him, so I will close public comment and bring it back to the board. We have a motion by Commissioner Burke-Bigler, second by Commissioner Jung. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed?
And would y'all please vote on your screen?
Motion carries unanimously, I believe. Please affirm your votes. It does. Okay, Madam Manager, I believe Commissioner Lucy would like to propose a block vote.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would like to block vote items 8 and 9 with the recommendation, well, I don't know if we can, with 8 and 9, we have to identify it with,
Approve the 2 appointments.
to the 2 appointments, okay, thank you. Yes, so we'd like to put into block items 8 and 9, the appointment for item 8, the appointments would be for both candidates, both Jim Ray and Megan Ox, with the reappointment of Arnie Pitts and Steve Robinson. And item 9 to approve the appointments to 2 open spaces regional park commissioners to fill vacancies for Heidi Anderson and also Gregory Shorts. Is there, and that would I make that in the form of motion. Sorry, I'm stumbling through this.
All right, it's all good. Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Lucy, second by Commissioner Jung. Madam Manager, would you read those 2 items, and then we will call public comment.
Okay, item number 8 is a recommendation to appoint 2 candidates from a pool of applicants, including Jim Ray and Megan Oaks, to fill the position of general public and reappoint Arnold Pitts and Stephen Robinson on the Washoe County Advisory Board to manage wildlife, with a term effective October 9th, 2019 through June 30th, 2022. And then item number 9 is a recommendation to approve the appointments of 2 open space and regional park commissioners to fill vacancies on the commission for terms as listed or until such time as a successor is appointed. Staff recommends Heidi Anderson, District 4, term of November 5th, 2019 through November 4th, 2023. Gregory Shorts, District 1, term of November 5th, 2019 to November 4th, 2023. Applicants include Heidi Anderson, Nancy Baril Manquello, Martha Campbell, Gregory Shorts, Jerry L. Wagner, and Julie Zaras.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioners, we have a motion, we have a second. I will call public comment if you have no questions about this. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please call public comment?
Mr. Rex Flowers?
Welcome, Mr. Flowers.
Good morning. My name's Rex Flowers. First, I want to represent the Coalition for Nevada's Wildlife on the reappointment of both Steve Robinson and Arnold Pitts. We are in full support as a coalition to their reappointment. The other part of that item is you're only going to be appointing one individual to the general public. You have both Jim Ray and Megan Oakes have asked for appointment there. Not on behalf of the coalition, only for myself. I know both individuals, and I would hope that you would select Mr. Ray. Ms. Oakes has done a good job on the first 3 years that she did serve. However, she, on numerous occasions, has alluded to the fact of her limited time and ability to be prepared and be present at meetings, and with tardiness and absence, and we've had a number of issues that, as you know, you have to have a quorum. We've had several meetings where we weren't able to have quorums from individuals not being there, being present. And I would like to see Mr. Ray have the opportunity to be appointed, since he will be able to make all of those meetings.
I don't think there's an opportunity for both.
With that said, that would be it.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, is there any other public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back to the board under discussion. Commissioners?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Burke-Bigler.
So am I to understand correctly that you appointed Jim Ray?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought too, so, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Mr. Luparelli.
I'm just kind of late
I'm
to
sorry?
the party here.
Yeah,
was
no, I apologize.
Distracted. So the action is the reappointment of the 2 existing members and 1 new appointment to a
Correct.
vacancy?
Correct. And that was, the selection was for Jim Ray.
Got it. I understand. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, any other discussion? And Mr. Luparelli, thank you. Okay, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Jung being away from the dais. Madam Manager, that takes us now to item number 10, an introduction and first reading.
Item number 10 is an introduction and first reading of an ordinance amending the Regional Road Impact Fee, RRIF, General Administrative Manual, GAM, and the RRIF Capital Improvement Plan, CIP, with revised fees. The RRIF is an NRS Chapter 278B impact fee designated to generate revenue for the construction of regional roads and associated improvements in the community that was first passed in 1996 and has since been periodically amended upon the adoption by the Regional Transportation Commission, RTC, of updated versions of the GAM, CIP, and fees. Changes to the dollars per vehicle mile traveled and updates to the vehicle miles traveled for the land use categories results in revised fees in both the north and south service areas. The revised fees range from a 43% decrease in some categories to a 47% increase in some categories in the north service area, and a 53% decrease in some categories to a 22% increase in some categories in the south service area. The amount of the fees is based on the most recent version of the CIP in effect and is calculated according to the formula set forth in the GAM. The current amendments to the GAM consist of the 6th edition RRIF GAM that has been approved by RTC for recommendation to governing bodies of the counties and cities, as well as associated updates to the CIP and fees, and for other matters necessarily connected therewith and pertaining thereto, and set a public hearing for possible adoption of the ordinance for October 22nd, 2019.
Mr. Luparelli, did the manager's reading of that satisfy the clerk's need to read it? Can she just give us a...
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Parent just visited with me and we agree that the clerk's duty to read the ordinance is satisfied by the interim county manager's reading of the title.
Okay?
And for the record, this will be bill number 1831.
Okay. Okay. All right. So commissioners, do you require any information from either Mr. Smith or Ms. Masterpool from RTC about the changes in the RIF GAM? Okay, Commissioner Jung.
Yeah, I do need, before we do a second reading, I do need an update from a subject matter expert about, not here, since it seems like everybody else got an update. I didn't get an update. I know nothing about this. I'm okay with somebody introducing it, but I'm not saying that I'm going to support the actual adoption. So if a subject matter expert can meet with me, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Did you don't need them to give you any type of an explanation, Commissioner, at this time? Okay. All right. Commissioner Herman.
I would like to be included in on that information.
Okay. All right. Again, would you like staff to give us, why don't you guys give us just a brief overview?
I would like staff to actually treat all commissioners the same and give all of us updates, not just select few. Thank you.
Well, we knew this was coming through RTC.
For the record, Wayne Smith, Director of Engineering and Capital Projects. The item before you today is to contemplate the adoption of the sixth change to the RIF, CIP, and GAM. Julie Masterpool, our RTC RIF Administrator, is here. She is prepared with a full presentation. We can give that to you if you would like that, or we can answer specific questions, or as requested, we're more than happy to come and bring this information in a different forum.
Me? Would you give us a presentation? And then commissioners can also follow up, and staff, you can follow up with commissioners on.
And Mr. Chair, would you like this presentation timed at all?
How much time do you need, Ms. Masterpool?
I think about 10 minutes.
10.
Well, good morning. For the record, Julie Masterpool with the Regional Transportation Commission. I'm an engineering manager, and I'm here to present the 6th edition of the Impact Fee Program. Just a quick little background that the Regional Road Impact Fee Program was created as a way to charge new development for their fair share of the capacity improvements on the regional road network that was necessitated by new development. The RIF program is jointly administered by Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, and the RTC through an interlocal cooperative agreement, and the program is overseen by a RIF Technical Advisory Committee that has 15 members, 2 with RTC, 3 from each of the local jurisdictions representing Public Works, Community Development, and the Planning Commission, and 4 members representing new development. We also have 4 RIF administrators, 1 from each agency and RTC, that handle kind of the day-to-day operations. There are 2 manuals associated with the Impact Fee Program, the Capital Improvement Plan and the General Administrative Manual. The General Administrative Manual provides the guidelines and procedures to administer the program. There were really only 2 changes that we made to the GAM. The first being that state buildings are exempt from the payment of impact fees, and this is based on an opinion by the state Attorney General that a local jurisdiction cannot impose a tax or a fee on a federal or a state facility. And this has actually been in effect since 1997, and we just wanted to include it for documentation in the General Administrative Manual. As a note, NRS also excludes the payment of impact fees for federal buildings and public schools, so they also don't pay impact fees. The second modification involves the timing of impact fee offset agreements. NRS requires that if a developer builds an improvement off of the capital improvement plan, that the fees were based that the developer's impact fees must be reduced or offset. And we do that through, do this requirement through issuing impact fee waivers for improvements that are constructed by those developments. This is a new provision that allows a developer to begin construction on improvements that would be included in an upcoming capital improvement plan prior to its adoption, as long as that CIP, capital improvement plan, is adopted and that there is an approved agreement with the developer within 12 months from the beginning of construction. The reason for this provision is that the approval process is quite lengthy and requires multiple presentations, including the RTC board, local planning commissions, and then readings at each of the local jurisdictions. This allows a developer to start construction on a regional improvement prior to the actual adoption, and that's listed in that capital improvement plan, and still qualify to use those improvements to offset their fees. Now, the second manual is known as the Capital Improvement Plan, which outlines how the fees are developed. And the next couple of slides, I'll go through the specifics, but this is just kind of a general flow chart. And basically, we need to determine how much and where growth is anticipated to occur and the capital projects needed to accommodate that growth. The first thing is we need known land use assumptions to assess the type and where growth is anticipated. Development of the regional transportation plan, identify needed capacity improvements, and then determination of new developments' fair share of those capacity improvements, and then of course finally the impact fee rates and the fee schedule by particular land use. Land use assumptions are based in the development of the RIF fees based on the Washoe Reno Sparks master plans. And then we have growth is determined by using the population employment from the consensus forecast, which is distributed throughout Truckee Meadows using TMRPA's land development model that assesses the likelihood and the timing of development on a parcel by parcel basis. This is an example of an approved project where the land uses are identified in a project handbook and that yields the densities that are used in TMRPA's development model. The houses and employment uses are converted to vehicle miles traveled, VMTs, by using trip generation, ADT, caused by that particular land use, and multiplying it by the average trip on the regional road network. Now, VMTs, or vehicle miles traveled, are the measurement of consumption that's used in the impact fee program. Now, this data from TMRPA's development model is imported into RTC's travel demand model, which predicts where traffic is going to go on the regional road network over various timeframes. This helps us determine when and where capacity projects are needed. These capacity projects are then identified in the RTP and separated by various timeframes into a near term, the first 5 years, midterm, the next 5 years, and then a long range 10 to 20 year time period. This is all to accommodate new growth. And the capital improvement plan used in the impact fee program is based on the first 10 years of the RTP. And these are maps showing the 2040 RTP, the various timeframes, 2017 to 2021, and the 2022 to 2026 timeframes. And these are the projects that we've included in the CIPs. Now, NRS also includes a provision that limits impact fee service areas from encompassing an entire city or county if the population is more than 15,000. So in order to meet this requirement, we created 2 separate service areas, north and the south, divided by I-80, which splits both the cities of Reno and Sparks. This requires we also divide the projects that are in the first 10 years of the RTP by service area and develop separate and independent capital improvement plans and resulting fees. There's an exhibit in the RIF capital improvement plan that's included in your packet that lists all the projects by service area. I also want to note here that the revenue that's collected by the impact fee program is used in the same service area where it was collected. Now, RIF fees are based on the total cost of those capacity and projects listed in the capital improvement plan minus any other funds that are used from other sources to build capacity projects, which include some federal funds, state funds, and some other local funds, our fuel tax. The remaining balance is new development's fair share of that capital improvement plan. The growth by service area, again, is measured in VMT's, vehicle miles traveled, and is based on that information developed through TMRPA's development model and RTC's travel demand model. The rate for each service area is the result of new development's share of the RIF CIP cost divided by the VMT growth. For the 6th edition, the results of the fee of $320 per VMT for the north and $313 per VMT for the south service area. And this is just a comparison of the fees between the 6th edition and the current 5th edition. And then some of the differences are that the capital improvement plan that was used for the 5th edition was based on the 2035 regional transportation plan. And the 2040 plan was used for the 6th edition, which dropped off projects that had been completed off the 2035 plan and added new projects for that 10-year time frame. The VMT growth in the 5th edition was based on the 2012 consensus forecast, whereas the 6th edition was updated to the 2016 consensus forecast. The dollar per VMT rate was increased for both the north and the south, more so in the north, mainly because of that capital improvement plan for the north projects. We have a lot more projects now predicted in the north where the growth is anticipated. I've also listed on this slide a couple of the most common land uses and their associated fees. The fees are paid at the building permit level, and they're based on what the building permit is for, whether it's a single-family home, retail, commercial. And these fees are based on the average daily traffic for that particular type of land use. Now, we use the trip generation manual that's put out by ITE, which is basically a nationwide study of traffic counts on various types of land uses. These are the same information that you usually see when you get a traffic impact study with your applications for development. In the 10th edition, the most recent one, we actually saw a decrease in the average daily traffic for many of the employment land uses, which resulted in some of the employment land uses actually being a little bit less in the upcoming 6th edition over the 5th edition. Now, this is a multi-jurisdictional program, and adoption of the new fees require approvals by Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County. Sparks approved in the Impact Fee Program, the 6th edition, back in August, on August 26th. Reno approved it last week on October the 2nd. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Well done.
She was right on 10 minutes.
She was
I
perfect.
know, that was amazing.
Commissioner Jung, I have you signed in first.
Did you say that the regional plan informs the RIF project?
It does lead through master plans.
Well, we don't have a regional plan yet, do we? We've adopted
We
it?
have one, no, but it's in the middle.
It's never been adopted, so isn't this a little bit
It's the most recent.
premature?
Well, it's the most recent information that we have to use in order to develop all of our plans.
The old regional plan or the new regional
The
plan?
one is the one that's in adopted. I'd have to double check if there's,
I
it's
need to
through
know that.
TMRPAs and what they have used to develop their TMRPA's overall development model.
But we have not adopted a regional plan.
I can double check with them.
We have not officially adopted a regional plan, so I don't know how, if that's what you said, that was the top starting, how this would inform to this. I mean, that's
Well,
backwards.
since this does start with the 2040 Regional Transportation Plan, so the information that was used in order to develop where we needed to build capacity projects, so it probably was the previous one that was approved.
Yeah, that's an old master plan, regional plan. The other thing, is your name Michelle Fink?
No.
Who are you?
I'm Julie Masterpool. I'm with RTC.
Where's our
Mitch
staff on
Fink-
this?
Mitch Fink is the
Administrator
RIF
for the road
administrator
impact fees.
Washoe County.
Yeah, I see that on the staff report. That's his name on there. Where's our staff on this? I don't really want RTC telling me what I should be adopting for RTC. Shouldn't I have a staffer that, the person whose name's on this, the staff report?
Again,
No, it's not
Dwayne
Mr.
Smith, Director of Engineering for Washoe County. As Ms. Masterpool identified, the RIF program, which has been in existence since 1996, is administered by each organization, City of Reno, City of Sparks, and Washoe County, and RTC. RTC is responsible to develop the models, develop the projects, develop the program. We collect the fees, transfer that money to RTC, which then implements regional programs for the benefit of our area. They're responsible for identifying those improvement projects for capacity. So we all play a role, a very critical role, in the application of this program. It is ultimately starts with RTC, and then again, we collect fees through building permits, just as the City of Reno and City of Sparks does, and that fund is then used for those capacity projects. So we are also on the RIF committee. So Mitch, as one of my engineers, he is on that committee, just as the City of Reno, City of Sparks have other engineers on those committees as well, to help guide and steer the process as we go through things like these RIF updates.
I didn't answer my question. Who wrote the staff report?
Mitch Fink and myself
Right.
wrote the staff report.
Okay, so that isn't who presented, though, today? RTC is presenting today?
That's correct.
Okay. I have another question. So help me understand this part of it, in terms of identifying capital improvements for regional roads, not for buildings and those sort of things, correct, for RTC, just for roads?
Correct, and that comes through the regional transportation plan, that process that looks at the growth in the area. We put it into our travel demand model, get input from the local agencies on where we see growth anticipating to occur over the next 5, 10,
Right.
20 years.
Yep, you said that. So that's simply for regional roads, the capital improvement program with the,
Yes.
identifying.
Does not, well, our RTP does include some freeway projects, but the RIF program only deals with the regional roads.
Okay. And then, if I understood your calculations, are we incentivizing vehicle miles traveled or not?
We're trying to charge new development their share of building capacity improvements. So.
But you use vehicle miles traveled to identify impact fees.
Correct.
So do you pay more in impact fees or less if there's more vehicle traveling?
It's all based on the growth, and I guess if you could say, the more growth that is allowed through zoning and master plans, it might actually reduce the cost of impact fees because you're spreading it over more people. But there is a
So it has nothing to do with
connection.
getting people out of their cars?
Well,
It's for building regional roads, not disincentivizing work, play, live areas, which is what we're supposed to be doing, but incentivizing that. Okay, yeah, I don't support this, and I still need Mr. Mitchell, the subject matter expert, to meet with me. I want a map of all investments in the whole region and how much since the inception of 1997. And I also would like to see who is on your RIF advisory committee. I need a member list of that as well. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Herman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so let me understand, that we're going to have a 47% increase in the north, correct?
For some particular land uses, yes.
Okay, so, and there's a lot of building in the north, a lot of development. But I've been watching over the last few years here of development, and the only new roads that I've seen are the roads that are in the developments. We haven't improved too many other roads in the north, or new roads. And does this help with the maintenance of the roads as their access to these new developments, or, because our roads are falling apart and in the north, and will this help that?
Again, Dwayne Smith for the record. Maybe I can answer a couple of pieces. First of all, the RIF program, the RTC RIF program is not for maintenance of roadways. It is only for new capacity, that pro rata share, that new development increases the need for additional capacity. The RIF program pays for that additional capacity. RTC does fund maintenance programs associated with regional roads. And so those regional roads that are identified through the regional road program do receive a significant amount of funding for maintenance. Washoe County, as a comparison, we also own a lot of roadways that are not part of the regional road impact fee program or RTC maintenance programs. Those are funded through primarily fuel tax, and so Washoe County is responsible for the maintenance of our Washoe County roadways that are not inside of the regional road program.
Well, like I say, when development comes along and they use the same road to get to them, and they are in that area, it seems like part of that money should be going towards, widening them or whatever it takes to take care of the traffic, because there's a whole lot of new traffic out there. And it's getting very difficult for people that live up in the north. And so if this is just for new development and it's just for in their development, I mean, I don't understand how that's going to help with 47% more money going into it. I don't know. Where does it really go?
If I could comment, Mr. Chair, to the Commissioner, we also, just so I'm very clear, with any new development, that development in areas where there is not an opportunity to expand capacity or make improvements through the Regional Road Impact Fee Program, we do condition development for those roadways in those areas that are impacted by development as part of Washoe County's building permit process. For instance, there are roads up in Spanish Springs right now, specific Calle de la Plata on the east side of Pyramid. That new development, Blackstone and Sugarloaf, were conditioned to widen the roadway in front of their projects. So they are paying their pro rata share to improve capacity outside of the Regional Road Impact Fee Program. So there are examples of that. I think you're absolutely spot on that most of the development, that there's a larger percentage of new development that's occurring or planned to occur in the North Valleys areas. Because of that, there is additional need for capacity projects. With that additional need for capacity projects, that drives the VMTs upward, and with that increase in VMTs, with more capacity projects needed, the costs, subsequently the RIF fees, are going up for those areas as well.
The only good thing I see about this so far is that the developer will pay that fee, correct?
That's correct. I don't know, Jill, if you had some.
Well, I was just going to also add, in the North Valleys in particular, we have Sky Vista as an RTC project, is a regional road. It's in bad shape, and we're going to combine both RIF impact fees for widening that road and then use some of our fuel tax money to actually reconstruct the existing roadway. So we go hand in hand. But there is a lot of development that's going out that will be issues for both for Sky Vista and also for Lemon Drive. We have another project that we're starting to widen on Lemon Drive also.
All right, I'll be watching.
Okay. Yes, we need an introduction at this point.
Mr. Chair.
Hold on just a second. Actually, before we do that, Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed in for public comment on this item? Is there anyone in the public wishing to speak? Okay, we'll close public comment. Vice Chair Lucy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I'd like to introduce Bill 1831 into the record and set a public hearing and possible adoption for October 22nd, 2019.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, item number 11. update and discussion.
Yes. Item number 11 is an update, discussion, and possible direction regarding the Washoe County, Northern Nevada Adult Mental Health Services, NAMS project.
Good morning, Commissioners. Amber Howell for the record. I'm here to give our first update on the NAMS campus. We've made a ton of progress. I first wanted to go to the map. We've learned a great deal of history about the NAMS campus, which I think is very symbolic and near and dear to the work that we're trying to accomplish there. We learned that in the 1800s, there were 92 acres that were deeded to the state for the benefit of the mentally ill and the disabled. The campus was actually 3 miles from Reno, as Sparks did not exist until 1905, and so this campus has been around for a really long time. The campus was opened for the Nevada Insane Asylum. It opened its doors in 1882 to house 160 patients. At the time, the patients were referred to as poor unfortunates, and they arrived by train at 4:30 in the morning from Stockton, California, where they were sent to Reno/Sparks to be treated. All of the counties participated in these transportation efforts to relieve themselves of the expenses of caring for these individuals, and were commonly referred to as harmless, incurable, and imbecile patients that were sent elsewhere. Also symbolic to this campus is there was a working farm that was on the property, which is why the Soulful Seeds project is such a great idea, with alfalfa, fruit trees, vegetables, cattle, pigs, and so it's nice to see us go full circle and try and bring some life back into that campus. I'll close with some also important history. Is it's also the resting place for 800 patients who were basically sent there to live and die in the area. The first burial was actually a man by the name of William Place, and we are looking for a name for the campus, and so we're considering doing something in his honor as we rename the campus. So I'll go ahead and give an update of where we are. We had an exciting day on September 9th. We broke ground at the NAMS campus, starting with a couple of buildings. So that was a very monumental day for us that we don't talk about it anymore. We're actually in the process of doing something about it. The project is the Washoe County Community Services Department is been incredible for us to work with. And we first had a lease for 7 buildings. It was, you'll see there the buildings that were put in there, and then we did a little switch towards the end and added 2 additional buildings that the state allowed us to take 2 more online. And so all of those agreements did not finalize until June 11th of this year. The budget approved by all of you, thank you so very much, is a total of $11 million thus far for rehabilitation of the buildings. We hired an architect, Paul Cavan. He's very familiar with this property. He's done a lot of work with the state on other buildings on the NAMS campus, and so we're lucky to have him. And he has put together things called GMPs packages. There are 5 of them, and I will go over each one of those. So you will see that each package has a range of specific buildings that go into that package. So each time there's a GMP, we will come back and give you updates of where we are at. I'm happy to report that all of the developmental plans for all of the buildings is complete. This is the campus map. The only thing that we changed was you have 8B River House in yellow. We swapped that building with the children's cabinet for 14 and 15. We had River House Crossroads in the 14-15 building, but by swapping that, it actually gives us the entire block, so makes centralization a lot easier. And so that was done very recently. You'll see that the Early Learning Center is over by intake. The blue series, the 600 series, is where the maternity families and children will be housed and have programming, and then up the hill, the Crossroads program will be available to everyone. So there's a lot of synergy and cohesiveness putting us in a more contained area. These are the estimated timeframes, hoping all goes well with the winter and changes to things that may be unexpected. You will see that 8C, 603, and 604 are going to be finalized in March, followed by Building 8. That is the building that state staff are going into so that they can vacate 602 and 605. That will be completed on May 15th. Site improvements happen on January 31st, and then Building 600 and 601 is also going to be completed on May 15th. That is our drop dead date for completion of the campus. And 600 and 601 are where the women will be relocated. It's important to mention that women, the amount of women that are at the Record Street location is 50. We are increasing the bed capacity for women to 100. This is just some diagrams that I'm providing to all of you to show first the vast amount of landscape that we've had to go in and try and mitigate and take care of. We had a partnership with the Sheriff's Office, so a work crew came out and spent 3 weeks on site and completely transformed this campus. It looks absolutely beautiful, and they did a tremendous job. So I thank Sheriff Balaam for his kindness and willingness to step up and ask how he can help. We also did an analysis on all of the buildings to make sure that rehabilitating the buildings would actually be less costly than tearing them down and starting over. And our analysis showed that they are well worth the investment, much more expensive to tear down and rebuild than to rehab. This slide just talks about all of the different agencies that'll be on the campus. So the purple is us, and then you see other agencies that are involved. So it talks a lot about a community campus with mental health services there, aging and disability services, children's programs, areas for families, a clinic, a pharmacy. And so this is really starting to come together. And then finally on the right just shows you that none of the buildings are over 50 years old, which makes CSD very happy. We talked a little bit about Soulful Seeds, so I won't get into that. I wanted to just update you that this is the amount of staff that you approved in the last budget. Thank you so much for the approval of this. This gives us a reasonable national standard of caseload ratios to be able to manage the clients there at a reasonable caseload. So I appreciate all of the support for that, for the staffing plan as well. This is the team. I want to recognize Bill Wardell has been absolutely amazing through CSD. We couldn't do it without him. We have the Perkins Group, as many of you know, lots of coordination with the state. This thing is really starting to come to life, and people are noticing it and want to be involved. And so it's a really inspiring time. And we're really excited about the progress we've made so far. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Commissioners? Is it down? Sure, go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a quick, well, I had to restart it, so I don't know what's going on here, sorry. I have a quick piece of potential advice to help with this, and it all goes down to whether or not we're going to pay for services or not, because you can't undercut private industry, and that's a big no-no with Sierra Nevada Job Corps Center and all the Job Corps across the world. But if you are looking for volunteers, since you use the sheriff's work crew to help you, Sierra Nevada Job Corps has fully trained, licensed, and ready to work apprentices who need hours, who will do it all for free. I think they even bring their own equipment. I can't tell you for sure. I haven't worked there in so long, 15 years. Okay. But they do painting, plastering, electrical, auto mechanic, because I know you guys have you're looking towards having a fleet too there. Landscaping, I could go on and on, but it might be worth our while. Talk to the attorneys to see how that works out. But we might be able to cut a fair amount of that budget at the same time provide these young people, ages 16 to 24, to get their hours, and they are fully trained up. Through, the ones I just mentioned to you, minus auto and landscaping, are fully union as well. So they go through a rigorous program to do this, and it might be a way not only for us to cut costs, but also to give young people who need to get hours to move up from apprentice level to journey man or woman. So look into, if you want to look into that, if you can look at the first place to start as an attorney, right? Because we don't know if we can do that legally, and then I can help you, as can Commissioner Herman. That's her district where Job Corps is, and she's well versed on how to handle that as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Lucy, I have you signed in.
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Howell, this is a phenomenal presentation. Thank you for the update today. One question I had, or actually maybe one request of you, could you give the commission basically a kind of overall, there are individuals already living in the campus in our Hope Cottages. Could you give a brief overview of those residents and, you know, once again, the amazing partnership that we have with Grace Church here in the region and what they've done to provide for those in those cottages?
Absolutely. Amber Howell for the record. The yellow buildings, the Hope Cottages, those were all buildings that we received $500,000 from Grace Church to rehabilitate those buildings. They housed 22 women. So that increased our census for women. The third cottage is actually going to allow us to put mothers with their children. We are finding that we have a lot more women with children than not. And so our only other building that we have is in Northwest for 10 women with their children. And so we're going to open that up. Grace Church is very supportive of that. And then the 8C building is also a donation from Grace Church. They wanted to help the 18 to 24-year-old population to have a specific Crossroads program for those individuals because they need targeted programming. And we're noticing our Crossroads clients used to be around average age of 40, and now they're aging, but they're also a younger population. And so we're trying to change based on the demographics that we're seeing. And then, of course, 1415 will move over into 8B, and that also houses 22 women. And so all of them will be together on one location. And then finally, the orange is TADS. That's our Temporary Assistance for Displaced Seniors, also a Crossroads program. So ironically, the place where we found buildings and landscape to assist with the homeless population also allowed us to increase our Crossroads program at the same time. So it was a double win for us.
Thank you, Amber. And I have to agree. And I mean, I have to say, you know, with this investment from the county and from this commission to support an initiative like this, this really is, I mean, I toured the facility almost 2.5 years ago when we were touring some of the Crossroads programs that are located up at 14 and 15. And you look at the facility and the entire campus was like a campus that was forgotten. I don't think the state really had the funding and the capacity to really take care of it. And many employees that would work there daily. And not only employees, but patients from the community that would go and receive services there. Ever since the county has gotten involved, this place has been reinvigorated and looks absolutely stunning. Mr. Wardell and the CSD staff, the time and energy, the grass, the lawns, it really does change the entire atmosphere there. And with a campus that has such a dark history in its early 1800s and what it's become, it's gone from a place where people go to be forgotten to be a place to where people go to be renewed. And I think that is a tremendous, thing that we have done here at the commission. And I want to thank you and your staff and Ms. Schweikert and everybody that has really committed time and energy. This has been a large overtaking, not without any change in our already current workload. And so I think that is tremendous. I mean, that is a tremendous statement towards your commitment and everyone at the county level and the staff level to bring this to fruition. So I want to thank you personally and I think that's important. So thank you.
Thank you. So I see no one else signed in. I'll jump in here just real quickly. Ms. Howell, my piece of this, and I, like Commissioner Lucy, I toured it quite a number of years ago when I first got elected, and the 14-15 for the Crossroads program, and they were, what was really interesting at the time was the participants in the program were doing some of the work internally. They were tearing out floors and all kinds of stuff. So they were actually involved in the rehabbing of the facility, which I thought was it was a wonderful process for everyone involved. Gave them an opportunity to learn new skills and et cetera. But what I'm interested in is the building 2A, the senior daybreak, and how that will change what we're doing here, and how are we going to transition? When are we going to transition, and what do we expect those numbers? And are we still? I know I keep asking you this sort of privately, but I want to get it on the record. Are we still talking about having some type of a collaborative effort with Nevada Senior Services from Southern Nevada and Jeff Klein's group?
So thank you for the question, Amber Howell, for the record. So what we're in the middle of right now is some pretty intense negotiations with Medicaid. And we are trying to get some clearance and approval because there is a little bit of a snag because there's a mental health facility institution on the campus, and how close in proximity that can be to an adult day program, as if we need more obstacles. But we are working tirelessly with them. We're making a lot of progress. It would expand our census from 22 to 75. It's still the best location for them. That building in particular has opened so many doors for us with the veterans home up there and what they want to do for this population as well. So it has been a perfect marriage as we start exploring that building and how we're going to collaborate to provide services. We do the adult day health and they provide other type services. So we are on track to start looking at what the redesign will be of that and what can be billable. So it's definitely not in the first phase, but not forgotten, and we are working a concurrent plan between the Homeless Initiative and Daybreak.
Alzheimer's and memory care is a tsunami. It's coming. We're seeing more and more of it. And just for people to have a break is so essential. And I know we have a small program, but it really needs to be more robust for just for those drop-off services.
Yes.
And I'm hopeful that it occurs fairly soon. What's the projection for the time frame to open that facility, that building 2A? What do we think?
So
Best guess.
what I'm told is after the 15th, after the work gets done on the other buildings, then we move into phase 2, which includes Daybreak.
Okay.
And so the architect will tell us what that looks like. My time frames seem to be a lot shorter than reality.
And did you say that we're getting a little pushback because of the proximity of other kinds of patients?
Yes, that's an interpretation snag that
Right.
I have enlisted Mr. Wilden through the Perkins Group, who has a ton of knowledge about Medicaid and these types of things to help us appeal a Medicaid decision.
Okay. I mean, I guess what I would argue is hospitals treat all kinds of patients, and they're all in proximity to one another. This makes absolutely no sense to me. I mean, this is a community program, a desperately needed community program. And I guess the question that I would ask those people who are trying to thwart this effort is, I pray for you that you never have a family member who has memory care issues, because it is so debilitating on the caregivers and the family. It is very, very difficult, and many of the residents in our region cannot afford formalized care, and they keep them in their homes, and they just need a little bit of time to get out and do some shopping and run some errands and collect their thoughts. It is extremely difficult on these folks, and I mean,
Absolutely.
I would, if I'm happy to sit down and talk to them. I'll get down on bended knee to ask them, please think about what the stumbling block that you're putting into place here. Because this is so, so very necessary.
I think we have a very good argument, and we're prepared to have it with them.
Okay, so last question, what do we think the numbers will be there? Because I've always wanted to hit about 100. Do you think that that's possible?
It depends on fire code, building, permitting. They kind of decide what we are able to, the programming we can have in there, but we were looking at a range from anywhere from 75 to 85.
Okay.
So, close.
Okay. Hit the 100, Amber.
Okay.
That's my goal.
I'll try my best.
I understand. It's just so very important, and I know that square footage matters, and I understand, but I will wager to you that we will have no open spaces. And remember, Mr. Klein down in Southern Nevada, he doesn't turn anybody away.
Right.
He turns, if somebody needs to drop their loved one off, he turns no one away. I mean, he's just done a phenomenal job, so I'm still hopeful that collaboration will work out, because I think he's learned a lot over the years. He and
We
his
will
staff.
triple the size for Washoe County, but we will not have empty beds. That's correct.
Understood. Okay. Commissioner Jung, you're back in.
Just to piggyback on that, Mr. Chairman, it's not just memory care, though. The baby boomers are going to hit us hard when they start getting the end-of-life medical problems. And I think we need to be really on the forefront, because as Governor Gwynn, the late Governor Gwynn was found, he asked if there was a way that we could close our borders, which of course he's making a point to citizens, because this is such an attractive place for retirees because we have no income tax. And then therefore we get all of course, the wonderful people that join us here from all over the country, mostly to the west, who make us better and bring us money here. But we have the attending problems that come with them aging here and finding this as a cheap place to live. And we have a senior services program that is so woefully underfunded that we don't even advertise senior services, because we have no place to put people that have needs for respite care, for daybreak, et cetera. And the chairman is correct. We have got to start investing money, raising money, maybe via the GST, to anticipate the needs of a very large aging population with and it's not even if they have the money or not to take care of themselves. We don't have space anywhere to put anybody. And as the chairman is saying, he has well, we all have aging parents, right? He's going through a health crisis, and the stress level that a caretaker in a family goes through, according to all the recent data, there's nothing more stressful in life than providing care to an aged population. So I think what he's getting at and asking you to up the money, we also need to look at, well, where do we cut? Because we don't have an infinite amount of money, or where do we raise funds? Because this is going to be something that we have a responsibility, no matter what age we are up here, we can see the future and we know what it looks like and how expensive the baby boomer population. It's not because they're a bad generation, they're the second largest population alive today. And they are aging very quickly and having all the attendant needs, and also living longer, which makes a very big difference on how far that Social Security goes and all of the other things. So we have to build for this boom of a generation that is, from all intents and purposes, we owe it to them. They're the longest paying taxpayers. And I feel like, for me, I'm not in your generation, but I feel like I owe you. You're my elders. I owe that they are cared for well and cared for with dignity and respect and kindness and love and all the attendant things that make us human beings with frontal cortexes. So I think I can't say it enough that is so important, that as a county, and as the vice chairman had said, and who has championed this and has shown it off to the entire country through the National Association of County annual meeting here, we got to do more. This is what government, and especially county government, does, the basic social safety net. This is not city work. City work is a whole lot of other stuff, but county people, this is what we do, and I'm proud that we do that, and I want to do more. And I know you're doing everything you can with bubble gum and duct tape and baling wire, but we need to get a little bit more serious and be the leaders I mean, because people are not, so when Governor Gwynn asked if he could close the borders, of course he came back with, you can't close the borders, you can't select who you want in here, kind of like spot zoning. But the big message is it'll always be attractive to live here. It's cheaper and there's no income tax. And the weather's fabulous. I mean, let's be honest. And the geography's fabulous. I'm not talking about Southern Nevada now, but Southern Nevada has the same issue because people from Orange County, that's who all retires there. So I know I'm preaching to the choir right here, but I just feel like it's important that we get that on the public record, and we must, as a younger generation, take care of our elders. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Amber, as you know, I think that this is important to put on the record. The collaboration between Nevada Senior Services, one thing that I would bring up, and I think it still holds true, he takes no tax dollars from Clark County. He does it all. He does it all on grant funding, and he leverages his dollars. And I mean, he's done an amazing job. So that was one of the things that attracted us. Well, I've actually tried to. I tried to import him. I tried to headhunt him away. I really did. Commissioner Burke-Bigler, I have you signed in next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Howell, is the daybreak, the senior daybreak proposal to have a locked unit?
Interesting question. So it's locked in the sense that they can't get out unsupervised. So it keeps them safe, especially what we've learned towards the end of the day. They get antsy and try and get out of the area. One of the important pieces of that building is that there will be an enclosed big outdoor space.
Good.
And that is something that we're really struggling with at our current location. They need to be able to get outside to see the sunshine and experience that very basic need. And so this property allows them to have lots of room to be able to do that, but not leave where it'd be unsafe for them.
That's great. I know when, I took care of my mom for 19 years and with dementia, and she had to be in a place where she had a locked unit because although her mind wasn't working, her body was working great. And she loved to walk, and she would just walk out the door and wander around. And so, when it got to the end game where I really needed to make sure she was supervised, I had to have her in a locked unit, and they are really difficult to find. There were 3 beds available. I ultimately could not do a daycare. I had to actually institutionalize her because there wasn't a place to just take her for daycare that was locked and protected. And she was wily. She could get out of anything. So, you really, you don't realize that they might not mentally know how to pick up a fork and eat anymore, but they know mentally how to do some things. And that's why it's so important to have a locked daycare system that you can, somebody who has a mother like mine was, that you can take and drop them off.
And this building also allows us to have 6 different rooms for them to go into, as opposed to the one we have now, because people need options. Just sitting in the same room every day makes us pretty anxious. And so this gives them freedom of choice.
Well, thank you for all you do. You're fabulous.
Thank you.
As you know, I tell you that all the time, and I so appreciate it. I'm so excited about this campus, so thank you.
So party on May 15th. Cutting ribbons, hopefully. Thank you.
Okay, not quite done. I'm sorry, Vice Chair Lucy.
Thank you. Oh, Ms. Howell, if you'll go right to that. You're just jumping all around on me, ma'am.
I know.
Can you go to the plan diagrams? Yeah, one of them. It doesn't matter either. Actually, go to the next one. Okay, perfect. That one right there. I want to bring up a quick point and topic as we continue to talk about kind of the evolution of this campus and what we're doing and the multiple agencies that are involved, and it's outlined there in the department. You have obviously DSFS, you have Veterans Affairs, you have a number of individuals, employment training, you have the county, you have a number of things going on. Yesterday, obviously, in the Community Homeless Advisory Board meeting, we had a very kind of robust discussion about housing, obviously. And one of the discussions that came up is obviously transitional housing, not necessarily low-income housing, very similar to what the Village at Sage Street is, but true transitional housing. And one of the challenges that I see with the campus is that as we can continue to provide services, emergency intake for women looking for shelter and families looking for shelter, and some transition into our cottages with whether it's substance abuse or some sort of challenges, that mental illness that they're dealing with. As we continue to expend money and dollars into our programming for these individuals, the one thing I would like to bring to everybody's highlight is the 6 acres that's located currently between Kitsky Lane and Galletti Way, and or Battleborn. I guess it's Battleborn Way, where the Veterans Hospital is. What we're seeing is we're emergency sheltering these individuals, but we're really not providing them, and this is a study that's been provided to us yesterday from NYEP and then also from the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning. There's currently about 10,000 units that is missing in low-income housing, which is that transitional number, and some, about 1,400 units that's in very low-income housing. And so what I'd like to do is, and obviously not today, but as we continue to evolve this campus and truly look forward to future planning in this county as we address a housing need, and I don't think there will ever be a non-issue with housing for this segment of individuals. I think we need to constantly look at this, but I really would like to see if we can continue to move forward, once again, not today, but into the future to identify that 6 acres, because it does fall within the opportunity zone, find individuals to help us build true transitional housing that will work with the Department of Veterans Affairs to get individuals out of there into true housing, get people out of our Crossroads program truly into transitional housing, something that will allow these individuals to live freely and have that independence that they need to kind of, because it is, I say, very, very challenging to go from homeless and without any money to a rental that is climbing a monumental level. And so as we look at this campus, that 6 acres, I would really like to see if we could find some way to create transitional housing that would benefit the region. And so as we look into those programs, I think that's important that we look at that. So
we are revisiting that exact topic with the state through the master planning that's happening.
Okay.
And so we're trying to project in the future what project or interest we'll look at next when we have lots of free time when NAMS is up and running.
Well, and I like I said, as it falls within the opportunity zone segment, and it is identified, it's state lands, maybe a joint venture, not only a P3, but a joint venture with the state Department of Veterans Affairs, a number of different things on the federal and local level that could facilitate the needs of our veterans, our seniors, anybody who's looking for that transitional housing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Lucy. Commissioner Jung, are you signed in?
Just one quick thing. Can you do it when you again, as the Vice Chairman said, in your free time, can we look at all the different programs that are out there, either from the federal or state level, that are looking for housing and will pay for housing? For instance, when you said veterans, what about Voc Rehab? They're always looking for housing. There are different people that we can get funding for because we are so underrepresented in these transitional housings for people who are, don't need a handout. They need a hand up and move on into their careers and establishing that credit and job history, et cetera, that makes you eligible to, take care of yourself. So I think that there are most likely, and we have a grants administrator here. Hopefully she can do some research and see what could be not only the 3P for the op zone issue, but also agencies that are just begging to give you money if you can guarantee 3 beds at the place for people who are not necessarily in need of severe case management, but in need of a transition between not being able to afford any place to on their own and healthy and secure in their housing situation. So that's just another, you're asking for feedback and direction here. So that's just another thing to just put on the line there. But I think that's a good point, Mr. Vice Chairman, in making that whole campus and any surrounding areas that are eligible a live, work, play for many populations and not just the indigent. So there's nothing better than a nice mix of all income, color, education for everybody to make a whole community. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
We're dreaming right now, but we still want you to keep our dreams in mind. And we know that it takes funding and it takes a political will. And sometimes it takes an emergency, and I think that's kind of where we're at now with housing. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Commissioners, I have no one else signed in. Ms. Howell, thank you so much. Okay. This is just a presentation, so I don't think, but I'll, just out of deference for the community, is there anyone, do we have any public comment on this item, Madam Clerk?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone wishing to speak? Okay, I will close that. Bring it back to the board. Item number 12, Madam Manager.
Item number 12 is a discussion and possible direction to staff regarding the negotiation of an employment contract for the next Washoe County manager.
Okay, so Commissioners, and I'll own this. If you recall back to item number 5, when we did the original appointment, the very last page of the item, it's actually page 3, right above fiscal impact, and I'll just read it. It says, and I should have made this, it's not in your staff report. I'm pulling back from item number 5 from last Monday. It's from last Monday. And what I should have done, my error, I should have asked staff to create a separate agenda item for this at that time. And it said, but this was all included in the same item. It said the board may provide direction to staff regarding the negotiation of an employment contract for the next Washoe County manager. The new county manager will be appointed and an employment agreement submitted to the board for consideration and possible approval during the next earliest possible scheduled board meeting. So I should have made that a separate agenda item. I did not. I know that some of us wanted just some specific things in there, and so I've asked to bring this back so that we can make sure that those are included in the request. Ms. Hurley.
Patricia Hurley, Washoe County Human Resources. For the record, I am just here to hopefully get direction with regard to the negotiation of the new employment contract for the new county manager. What I'd also like to tell you is that I did reach out to Mr. Brown as well. So what I'd like you to consider in your discussions today is he would like you to see some items possibly added regarding to relocation and moving benefits. Since he is from San Diego, also some consideration towards temporary housing and travel assistance while he is trying to make the permanent housing. So I just wanted to add that to you guys for discussion, and I will be here to answer any direct questions if you should need anything. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Vice Chair Lucy, I have you up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've based upon the discussion, and I have to apologize. We kind of skimmed over it. I know Commissioner Jung had made some comments. I had made some comments, but we just didn't really get to some breadth of this. And now that going back and reading the agreement, and I actually had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Brown after since Monday and have a discussion. I think the relocation benefits is something that we definitely need to discuss. What that would constitute for him to relocate to the area in a timely fashion based upon the execution of the agreement. And as we just mentioned, obviously there are some challenges within our area for housing. So identifying what that housing benefit would be, kind of I know when we hired Mr. DeLone over at the RCVA, we provided him, I want to go back and say it was about $7,500 a relocation fee with obviously moving expenses that were to be reimbursed as they were deemed reasonable. So I think that's the assistance, the housing assistance. I'd like to know a little bit more in detail what that would look like. housing assistance? I mean, is that rent payments? What exactly, Ms. Hurley, would that be, look like?
Patricia Hurley, for the record, I didn't get into specifics with him. I'm guessing he's looking for maybe some temporary housing kind of reimbursement, is what I'm guessing he's asking for. But again, I didn't get into detail with him on that. What I could ask is if there could be some leeway to begin those discussions and try to understand that better, and then I could come back and probably explain that more.
Okay. And so, and then I go back, and so thank you, and we'll go back to that in a second. The other thing I wanted to discuss is obviously the term of the contract. The original term that we have the two contracts, the one executed in 2016 with our former manager, I believe it's 2016 based upon the data I have here. I'm sorry, this was active as of 2014, October 20, 2014, and the addendum was on the 16th. However, I want to go back and look at the term. What I would recommend to this board, or I recommend to staff to negotiate, I would look at, obviously, under Section 2B or Section 2A would be the term of the agreement. I would like to look for just a 12-month agreement, just to kind of figure out where we're at, get some assessment. Mr. Brown, one of the things I went back to continuously is experience. So I've had the discussion with Mr. Brown. He understands my concerns in regards to the experience and what he's going to have to learn and kind of get on the ground and kind of drink from a fire hose, as we all did when we first started. So I'd like to see just a 12-month agreement, but have him come back regularly and meet with every commissioner about what our drives, our concerns are, how they pertain to the strategic plan, and so that he has a clear understanding about expectations, so that there's no challenges for him because it is I think it's challenging to kind of understand the breadth of every commissioner from just the 45 minutes he spent with us here at the dais. So some independent meetings would be great. That's obviously doesn't have to be contractual, but that's something I'd like to have him do. And then notification by employee is in Section 2B, or 2B. We were given 30 days by Mr. Slaughter, and I think that was a challenge for us to kind of just pivot and move and redo some things. And it was outlined as 30 days in the original agreement. And so I would like to be at least 90, at least a 90-day term for us to have that notification by the employee to us. However, what I would recommend is that if we don't see amenable that this, if there's an employee, and this is from my personal experience, that it's given we give 30 days notice. We should have the ability to give 30 days notice if it's without cause. Or maybe this is at the board's discretion, but I mean, obviously, I would feel comfortable with a 30-day without cause, a termination notice from the employer to the employee. So that's just these are my opinions. And then salary. Once again, going back to experience, and Manager Slaughter started his initial contract with us at a salary of $210,849.60 pursuant to the contract. Mr. Slaughter came with many years of internal experience and understanding. I was not here at his hiring, but what I would recommend is that Mr. Brown start at a very similar place, and my recommendation that would be roughly about 10% over his direct reports, and whatever that would be. Roughly, it's in the 206 range, I believe, or somewhere in that range. So if you could identify that, those would be my comments. So I would be supportive of the relocation benefits, and also some further discussion about housing needs as it pertains to his relocation, and then those terms be negotiated on behalf. Oh, one other thing, Mr. Chair, I apologize. And a 6-month review in front of the board based upon to come back with us. Not a review, but basically kind of a status update from him to the board in a public setting about the challenges and an assessment of the county and where he is. That would be amenable within the contract. Thank you.
Okay. I'll chime in here in a second. Commissioner Burke-Bigler, I have you signed in next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a serious problem with a one-year contract. We're asking this gentleman to relocate to our county as a professional, and we're asking him to come in here and leave his current fairly stable job. We're asking him to do an outstanding job for us, but we don't have the faith that he can do the job in less than 1 year. I think we should give him the same term of 2 years that we gave to Mr. Slaughter when he first came on, and that we gave to Chief Moore when he first came on. I think at minimum, we should ask for a 2-year term. So that would be my recommendation. I have no issue with a 90-day termination of notification from the employee, but I think the county should do the same thing and give him a 90-day notification. Also, that seems to be only fair and equitable. That we would do that with any senior manager who came in to our operation, just as we have done that with our other senior managers. And just because Mr. Brown is coming into us and has never had county management experience, he has lots of government management experience and lots of experience working with rural counties and with all of the issues that are important to us. And so I think as a respect for his position and the position he'll hold with us, we should say, let's not say 90 days, let's say 60 days each. We have to give him 60 days, he has to give us 60 days if we don't want to go to 90. But I think it's inappropriate and disrespectful to the person and to his position to say, we can fire you in 30 days notice, but you can't leave us without 90 days notice. That's just incorrect in my opinion. Absolutely. I'm totally favorable to the relocation benefits of $7,500, and I would like to know more about what temporary housing means. I don't really understand that concept, so I'd really like to know more about that. I personally believe we should give him a salary in the same range that Mr. Slaughter got, which is $210,000. That would be my recommendation. Although we are many years down the road from when Mr. Slaughter came in, and the economy has changed a great deal. So maybe we want to consider raising it higher than that and giving him $225,000, which would be fair and equitable for the percentage of time that he is going to be making a commitment to this county. This position there is no position in this county more important than this position. And there is no reason that we would dishonor a person who we unanimously voted to support to come to work for us by giving him degrading salaries or a degrading 1-year term or a degrading, you get 30 days notice, but you got to give us 90. That just seems rude, inappropriate, and I couldn't support that. So those would be my recommendations. And I do want to hear some more on the temporary relocation housing costs, because it is true housing is ugly here. And so I don't know what that means. I've never really delved into that. So if you could give us some on that, Ms. Hurley, I would appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Jung, I have you.
100% agree with Commissioner Burke-Bigler on every single point. The only thing that I think that you should do a better job as our HR director, frankly, is coming back to us with a salary that is taking into consideration of the salaries of equal people and their budget span of control. That's MBA 101 if you have your master's in business administration. Budget span of control is directly correlated to salary. And I know my budget here, just to give you a little wowzer, is twice what the city of Reno is. And the city of Reno's manager makes more than our county manager. I'm not wagering twice the amount. But I'm saying, if this board, and I've heard it from the chair and the vice chair over and over on the public record and privately, they want to be treated as the regional leaders, you pay your manager better than you pay the 2 city managers who have tiny budgets. I mean, Sparks' budget, some of you have bigger budgets of your personal finances. That needs to be reflected in his salary. And I'm gonna say one more thing too. Stop monkeying around with signing this contract, because this is a delay tactic to try to get him to not sign it. This needs to be signed yesterday, and we can renegotiate all the rest. But to leave a professional hanging out like this in a public job while they're working for private industry is not okay with me. I am very disappointed that this has had to come back before us. I want to see the best practices behind that as well. And I also agree there's some discriminatory practices here saying he has to give us 30, but he has to give us 60. We give him 30. He gets 1 year. He gets to review it at 6 months. No way, Jose. And I think it's more important. Here he comes from Procter & Gamble executive program. I don't know if any of you tried to apply to that. I did out of my bachelor's degree. Good luck getting in. This man is far more experienced than anybody we ever said, outperformed anybody that showed up that day. And to then have this hesitancy, I'm not okay with that. And that is not what this county stands for. We are fair employment practices, and we believe in who the majority ruled for this manager. So, Ms. Hurley, get that contract signed yesterday. No more of this going back and forth, because this is a delay tactic to make a professional drop out. I'm a professional. I know better than that. As I've told you before, I wouldn't even do some of your monkeying around that you guys do up here if I was the manager. No way, Jose. Go to all these community meetings with 700 people to evaluate me? Ha! Never. He knows his worth, and he performed to his worth. Let's pay him his worth and knock it off. Thank you. And I have to go because this meeting, first of all, I got here an hour early, and I thought this meeting would go much faster. Ms. Bigler promised me that yesterday, and she didn't follow through. But I was a little diarrhea of the mouth today, too, so it's my own fault. But I'm not okay with this at all. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Herman, I have you signed in next.
I just want to say that these two ladies, two commissioners, they're a hard act to follow, so I'm not going to say anything except I support every word they said. Thank you.
Okay. So I don't think it's an unreasonable ask for him to give us an update at 6 months to tell us how it's going. I agree we should talk to him every day. But I think telling the community at a 6-month time period, giving us an update. It's not a review of him. It's just what has he encountered, and I don't think that that's an unreasonable ask. 6 and I just don't think that that's unreasonable. Perhaps maybe 9 months. The relocation benefit, I guess the question that I would ask is, have we ever done that before? Because I know that we've hired some people from the outside in the past, maybe some going back to, and I don't know whether Rosemary Menard or others in those, and so, and not that they're at the same level, but did we give relocation benefits there as well? And I have no problem with relocation benefits and short-term housing.
Tricia Hurley, for the record, we don't have many employees that are under contract. What we did do when we reimbursed for moving expenses, for those individuals that were from out of state, we did do moving expenses. We have a code provision that allows for that.
Okay, perfect. Yep, that's the base question. Again, I have no issue with that. Okay. Anything else, commissioners? Any other direction to staff? Do we have anyone under public comment wishing to speak?
I have no one signed in, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
We have you signed in under number 13, which is public comment. Mr.
Okay.
Chair?
Yeah, that's fine. Just change the item number if you would, Madam Clerk.
Well, yeah.
It's just a recommendation.
Hi. Thank you for your time, Mr. Hartung and Commission. I appreciate it very much. And Jeannie was right. The ladies are a hard act to follow. But when I hire people, you build equity in those people and believe in them instead of setting it up for failure. There needs to be out clauses. I absolutely agree sometimes. Look what happened at Reno. So sometimes you have to look at the big picture, give the man an opportunity, be fair on what occurred in the past, and maybe stick to that. and then give the guy a chance. Know you're vested. Give him an opportunity. He might shock and surprise you, and we'll have the best one we've had for a while. Because our old one left, that's unfortunate, but give the new guy a chance, and please consider that, because hopefully we'll move forward in the future. And good job, everybody up here today, but you have to be vested in this man, so he has confidence in you. He's ripping up his life, but me, I'm a conservative. I say start at, 210 or 215 maybe, but the rest makes sense to me. I don't like the 6-month review either, or a year limit. I think he should have time. It takes time to get to know a job. It takes time. And believe me, on-the-job training, it would have happened with others that were up for grabs too. So I hope we do the right thing and move forward, and thank you for your time.
Okay. Anyone else, Madam Clerk?
Not under this item.
Okay. All right, I will bring it back to the board. Commissioner Jung, I have you signed in first.
Yeah, that also made me, by and large, this man outperformed the two other candidates. So I have no concern, can he understand county government? Anybody who's a professional and has worked for multinational companies and at the level that he has can learn anything very quickly. That's why they're valuable in this world. And we have staff like that too. You could hand them any project, they can learn it, they'll know it forwards and backwards, and those are the most valuable people on the planet as far as I'm concerned. So he's proven himself. There's no need to prove to me one thing or the other. So I know that that's not the unanimous, but it is majority. And I think we should take a vote on this so that staff has clear direction and no more monkeying around.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burke-Bigler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't address I didn't address the issue of the 6-month review. I think when Mr. Round testified, he said he would come in here without the intention of blowing up the county management, and he would spend a minimum of 6 months even looking at everything. I need to sit on my hands clearly, looking at everything and deciding where he wanted to be. I would hope that this commission is going to work with him on a day-to-day basis, just as we did with John. And so we're really going to know whether or not he's doing the job at 6 months. And any of us will have, I don't think any of us are too shy to sit down with him and say, hey, you're not doing the job. If we think he's not doing the job, we're going to know that anyway. So I'm not opposed to a presentation from him on whether or not he thinks he's doing the job or not. I just think, we need to, if we're going to be fair with him in every way, let's give him the opportunity to say, hey, let me give you a 6-month evaluation of where I think we are and some of the things I think need to be changed or done, or should we stay right on track? Instead of saying we're going to sit up here and evaluate him as he stands there, we're going to have a frank discussion with our employee as commissioners who are elected to do this job, and we're going to have a frank discussion with our employee as to what he thinks where the county needs to be headed and what we think where the county needs to be headed. I think that's a very fair assessment to say at 6 months down the road that's what we do. And I guess the other thing is I know this is styled for possible action according to the thing. I don't know what that possible action means, but I am a little concerned that we have left the Ms. Hurley without clear guidance. I think you got clear guidance from 3 of us, but I just don't know if any other guidance needs to be given. So I'm trying to look at this from what's best for the county and what's best for this commission and what's best for our clear leader to be appointed to the position. So thank you, Ms. Hurley, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And I looked at not a review, but a 6-month update. Yeah. An update. Just tell us what your assessment is, and I don't think that's unreasonable. Commissioner Lucy.
And I'd like to defend myself a little bit here, because that was not exactly, when I said review, I meant review of the county from his standpoint, and it wasn't contractual. So all the attacks, I just want to make sure that you understand that that's not what I was asking about. I was asking about Mr. Brown's assessment of the county being from his standpoint, based upon his skill set and his professional growth and understanding of private industry, coming in here and applying at to the county, and from his standpoint, I think it was pertinent with my understanding, and it's not contractual in any way, but have him come in and truly give an assessment of the county from his standpoint, as both of you have pointed out, that this is the most important job of the county, but we also represent, I think of the manager as the sixth commissioner in the sense that they are just as public as the five of us, and they have the direct operations of running the operation of the county. Our only employee may be the manager. That manager's employee is 2,700 individuals or 2,400 individuals. And so when they go and have those discussions, I want to make sure that there's an assessment that has been provided to the public. So I want to defend my discussion there. I have no problem giving him a 24-month. I think you're right. I think that's fine. Kitty, you have a problem? You want to talk something?
I do. Yeah,
okay.
I do.
Okay.
We are discussing contract, and you said this wasn't a contractual obligation, but you said you wanted that in 6 months in the contract he would be reviewed.
Commissioner Jung, I know he addressed you, but can I
Sure.
just,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry. I don't want this to. Okay. Commissioner Lucy, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. What I would say is that the 24-month would be amenable to me. From my opinion, this is my opinion and my opinion alone. If that is what the commission wants, fine, that's 24 months, and I think that's fair. That's exactly what we've done with Manager Slaughter, so I have no problem with that. I know we cannot vote it on it today because you have to go and take this discussion to him. He has got to agree, and then we can vote and ratify whatever he brings back. As it pertains to the relocation costs, I think $7,500 is significant, but what we have done in past is ask that individual to provide us with what those costs are so that we can pay for those and make sure that those are so it wasn't just a blank $7,500, but it was just reimbursable up to $7,500.
Okay. Okay.
Patricia Hurley, HR for the record. That is true, Vice Chair Lucy. When we do go out for, we ask them to provide like 3 bids for moving expenses and those things. And so, yeah, so we do that.
Okay.
We will do that in this case as well.
Okay. Commissioners, anyone else? Commissioner Jung, would you like the floor? No, I'm not being sarcastic. Does anyone? Yeah, no, I understand. Anyone else? Before I close this item. You have clear direction, I think.
Patricia Hurley for the record, I do have a pretty good salary range, I think, of where you're at. And I do understand that time is of the essence.
And the
I will
timing
work
and the
on this.
term. And so I think that those are, and the exit strategy.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe we're looking at 60 days. So I'm for
Is that,
both parties.
Commissioners, because Mr. Slaughter gave us 60 days. Is that enough? No, he gave us 60. Didn't he give us 60? I thought he gave us 60. I'm sorry. Okay. Time is broken in my head at this point. I can't even recall what I had for breakfast. So I'm telling you the truth. All right. Anything else, commissioners? Okay, seeing nothing, we will close item number 12, and Madam Manager, we'll go to item 13, our final public comment.
Item 13 is public comment. Heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda.
Okay, Mr. Pitkin, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Michael Pitkin.
Mr. Pitkin, welcome.
My name is Michael Pitkin. I ask Washoe County to declare a homeless housing emergency. I ask to consider a couple of ideas. A subcommittee to investigate casino vacancy rates and occupancy percentage. Perhaps change laws allowing reasonable residential leases at all of the casino hotels. In some states, it is fashionable to live at a fancy hotel. This would help perhaps employees at Tesla, UNR students, displaced seniors, Washoe County new managers. This also would bring down the year-plus waiting lists at every apartment rental properties throughout Reno. Second idea, I would rather see a tent city that works well over people living along the river. If refugee camps work, then why not ask the military if they can assist with tents? What I hear from people who do not like Volunteers of America is that it is structured too much like prison. People want the freedom to come and go as they need, yet I would still require quiet between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. A tent city, women in one area, family and children in another, single men in another, and those with mental challenges and drug addictions in another. Each would be provided a tent and a green trash bin for personal belongings. A bin amount of personal belongings is all each are allowed. The reason I ask for a no-pressure tent city is to allow a safe place with human rights while dealing with homelessness with reality. There's an empty lot downtown at Lake and 2nd Street near the river that has been vacant for years. This would be a very workable spot. I hope you will consider a safe place for those who do not want to go to NAMS or to the VOA. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the public comment we had, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there anyone else wishing to speak at this time under final public comment? Seeing none, I will close that. Item number 13, Madam Manager. Item number 14.
Final item is Commissioner, County Managers' announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commission updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas.
Do you have any such items, Madam Manager? I'm sorry?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, I see no one signed in. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Okay. We are then adjourned.